Hey, hello everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Hangout number 103. First of all, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. I want to repeat again, this is an educational channel. I don't do gossip stuff, and I don't tell every news story that comes out in the news. I do stuff that is specifically linked to understanding criminal profiling and crime scene analysis and how things work. So I appreciate your support. And if you'd like to be in the chat room, which is only available through Patreon. My chat room is live for all my Hangouts for a month and for my case shows, which are for a month. And we also have a nice community. And if you join Patreon, click below, $5 a month. You can be in the community, and you can also come to all of the shows live. You don't have to see advertising. And you can be in the chat room, and it does support the channel. And I appreciate it. So check that out. And let me welcome the people that are in the chat room before I start with all the different subject matter. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, I'm sweating again. I'm like, it's so humid in Maryland today. Kelly's back. Yay. Glad you're back. I'm Martin. Texas Redhead is here. Joe is here. So we got two from the UK. Sarah Adams is here, and I have to take off my glasses because they're like fogging. Aunt Deanie is here. Who else is here? No, I can't see. Clarissa's here. Welcome, and you're new. Yay. You're in the right place. I'm glad you got into the chat room without a problem. Gretchen is here. Sarah Adams is here. And now I literally can't see. Dang it all. Beverly is here. Let's see. Anybody else? If I miss you about now, this is about par for the course. If I missed your name, sorry. Alyssa's here. And as you come in, welcome. Okay, so first thing I want to discuss is the interesting problem with what we call, well, it's not criminal profiling, and it's not profiling a crime specifically, but it's the concept of profiling a person based on what we know about them. A lot of times this is said to be racial profiling if the person is a person of color, and police are accused of this a lot. They're driving along and they see something amiss with the car in front of them, and they pull the car over, and if the person happens to be a person of color, sometimes there is a claim that, hey, you're racial profiling. And I'm not going to get into whole issues of racial profiling. This is not a political channel, so I don't want to do that. But I want to point out that we, in all of our lives, do profile people quite quickly. And this is just a normal human behavior and a necessary one. Let's say some guy is coming towards you, drooling, with a bizarre look in his eye, and he has a hatchet in his hand, and he's coming towards you. I'm going to say it might be worth your while to profile him as a possible killer and run like hell. I mean, you don't want to say, I don't want to accuse him of being a bad sort, so I think I'll just stand here and wait till he gets close and then find out whether he'll use that weapon on me. No, this is stupid. So human beings are set up that we do meet people and we profile them according to what we are familiar with and what we know and what that person's behavior shows and what they look like. These are the different things we look at. And I'm going to get into the Rachel Morin case in a minute, because there's a lot of accusations of victim blaming in that case, because Rachel Morin appeared to have a lot of work done. She had very big lips, and she was quite buxom. Is that what they used to call it? I'm trying to come up with the old way of stating that. She had big boobs. Anyway, and so people thought, and she tanned a lot, and she had went to dating sites. So there was a lot of profiling of her as a person. Now, I also did that prior to the press conference. I said, here's what the police would have to check into. Now, mind you, the word is check into, because it's very frustrating when you are investigating or you're analyzing a crime, that people say you shouldn't judge anybody. But in order to find out what's happening in their life, you have to find out who they are. And you find out who they are through how they express themselves, how they look, who their friends are, and all these kind of things. It doesn't mean you're coming to a conclusion, but you have to look. And the original presentation often starts an initial thought. Now, you might veer off of that thought, but you might have that thought to begin with. And so I commented also last week on the case of the woman white woman with a biracial child on the airplane, and somebody thought maybe she was trafficking the kid because she kind of looked Hispanic because she was biracial, and the woman went berserk on that and said, you're racial profiling. And I said, that happens to me because my kids are biracial and Black. So, and I gave the story of how I come over the border of Canada with my 3 kids in the back, and the border guard looks in and he goes, "Are those your kids?" And I went, "Oh my God, I always thought they were." And then he laughed and I went through. I didn't take it personally because he had a reason to think that possibly they were not my children. He's got to think things in an instant. He's got to make a decision on what to do. Maybe I am maybe I am child trafficking. And we want to prevent child trafficking. How do you do that if you can't think and maybe even question whether the person is who they are, whether they're doing what they should be doing? This is the way it works. So I'll give you a simple explanation from real life. So I'm over at the pool, and I go to the pool, and this is my break in the middle of the day. So I do my work, and then I run off to the pool, and I spend about an hour and a half, and I take my little dips in the pool, and then in between I read a book. Well, here's one book I was reading. This is one of the House on the Prairie books. Now, I'm going to look at my chat room here, and I'm going to say, if you saw me sitting there reading my nice little House on the Prairie book, what? Oh, hold on a second. I don't know if you saw me or not, but something just came up over the screen. Okay, so what would you think? You see me, which is I'm assuming a lot of people think I'm a grandmother because of my age. You see how quickly people decide that. Just because I'm 68 doesn't mean I'm a grandmother. I could have never had children. My children could have never had children, but a lot of times they assume I'm a grandmother. Now I'm sitting there with this book. What do you think? Oh, you are so mean. Sarah is mean. Low IQ. I'm so insulted. I'll go with Nancy, a school teacher. Yeah, a lot of people think I was a school teacher. Let's say, Sarah says, you asked. I did. You say nothing unusual. Okay. Gosh, I'm having trouble with these glasses. I swear to God. Well, why am I reading this book? Well, first of all, it's because I've always loved the series, and I actually love to learn about that time because there's something about it. It's both sweet and scary as they're crossing the plains, and they suffer things like massive grasshopper attacks, and they almost die, and Mary goes blind. I mean, it's quite an adventurous story. And I read it when I was young. I gave it to my children to read, and then I've been reading it with my granddaughter. And this is the last of the series, and I wanted to find out if Laura married Alfonso. Alfonso, is that his name? I forgot his name now. Anyway, and I don't mind reading children's books. As a matter of fact, I often read a very good children's book because I find them sometimes to be absolutely excellent. So, yeah, I don't mind reading children's books at all. Not because I have a low IQ. I did, and I didn't like the series. I actually did not like the series. It annoyed the crap out of me. Okay, so now I'm going to go Almanzo. Thank you. See, somebody else has read these books. Almanzo, thank you. It went out of my head. Okay, now I'm going to show you the next book. I finished that book, and now I'm reading this book, which is The Count of Monte Cristo. And if you say Monte Cristo, you probably haven't read the book. The Count of Monte Cristo. Now, what do you think of me? What would be the change in your viewpoint? This is 1,000 pages of fine literary work. What would you think? What would you think? I think my IQ just went up, Sarah. Did you just say my IQ went up to at least 85? Oh, so now it's too smart for you. Oh, an English academic, maybe again, school teacher. See, a good reading stamina. Yeah, it's a long book. It's by the way, my son's favorite book. My son's favorite book, and I'll show you him in just a sec. Anyway, it's his favorite book, and I told him I'm finally reading it. And he goes, "You haven't read it, Ma? I always thought you were way ahead of me." All right, Now, what if I were reading this book? It's kind of messed up. The Story of O. What do you think of this book? Oh, I'm worldly too, worldly, eccentric. Then I'm cool. I'm okay. This, The Story of O. Now I'm really curious. What do you think now? Okay. Madam Whiplash. Oh my God. Oh God. Clarissa says, dunno, maybe because you haven't read that book, which you shouldn't read. Joe, you know way too much about this book. Oh my God. Oh, all right. Let me read you the back of this book, just for all of you who do not know this book. Story of O by Pauline, or whatever her face is. An ironic fable of unfreedom, a mystic document that transcends the pornographic and even the erotic. What lifts this fascinating book above mere perversity is this movement toward transcendence of self through the gift of self. That the gift is so horrifying, outraging, cherished belief in the sanctity of the bottle and personal freedom is precisely the tale's source of effectiveness. To give the body, to allow it to be ravaged, exploited, and totally possessed can be an act of consequence if it's done with love for the sake of love. This came out of Newsweek. This is a Marquis de Sade ripoff, essentially. Okay, why did I read this? I read this, as you say, it's a very old book. I read this many years ago when I was studying psychopathy, when I was studying sadism. That's what I read this for. So any of you guys who are out there who think, no, not happening. Seriously, not happening. Oh, that's even worse. Need a date. I'm not that desperate. I don't have to get that kind of date. Oh my God. So anyway, see how your perception changed. Now, this is also funny because, I would like to think somebody sees me sitting there reading, not that book, but, maybe some other things that I'm reading, and they think I'm a little quirky and interesting. So they're like, oh, I mentioned I have a YouTube channel. They're like, what do you do? You're retired? Which everybody thinks, guess of my age. The first question out is, are you retired? Or they assume I'm retired. And I'm like, no, I'm not retired. I work. What do you do? Well, I could go into criminal profiling, but I decided I'll just say I have a YouTube channel. Leave it at that. And then comes the next question about the YouTube channel. Now, mind you, the number one, can you guess what people think I do on YouTube? So this again, if you're seeing me at the pool, I'm a little porky, way more than I like to be right now. I am who I am. I'm sitting there. I'm not reading The Story of O. I'm reading a more normal book. What do you think most people would think my channel is about? I'm waiting here. Y'all haven't gotten over The Story of O. I'm saying slave training and looks like, no, I didn't steal it from. Okay. Either cooking or OnlyFans. Okay. Let me go to OnlyFans first. If I only want to earn $3 a month, I think I could do OnlyFans, but I think I'm not the appropriate person for OnlyFans. But gee, so thank you. You say cooking. Knitting. I have knitted. I learned to knit last year. I did. Everybody's into knitting. What the heck? I'm a knitter. Oh, gardening. Oh, don't look out the window. Dang, there's nothing out there except dead plants. I did learn to knit, though. Right before COVID, actually, I took 2 classes in knitting. I actually have scarves, and they're really cute. I decided I'd try that because this is really not my forte, believe me. No, the number one is cooking. So I would like to invite you to my cooking channel. Oh, there we go. Yes. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of subscribers, but you never know. Makeup. Yeah, that's another one I'm not going to do. Makeup and hair. I'm so good at that too. Oh my God. Yeah, cooking not happening. There will never be a cooking channel. nor gardening. I might go for the knitting, but never gardening, never cooking, not about cleaning, not about organizing, because I can't even organize my damn pictures. Not about hair and makeup. I'm not a YouTube influencer. Oh my God. Cleaning. Oh yeah. Don't look around my house. No, I hire people for that crap. The S&M channel. Oh, this is getting out of hand. I'm going to do one more comment here, and then I'm going to go to the news but I just wanted to show you this. So just to say, I might, some people have asked, because they know I do art, if I would have an art channel. Well, I'm a novice artist, so the answer is no. But here's some of my work. This little girl I painted from India. That's a chameleon I painted. That's my granddaughter with her puppy. And this is the one I'm working on now. This is the son who read The Count of Monte Cristo all the way through. This is my son, Jeremy. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and he's my son, Jeremy. And I am presently working. This is an in progress. I have lots to go. I'm doing this with a palette knife and no brushes. And this is so far his face, although I've got a lot of work to do on the eyes and all kinds of things. This is like 1/3 of the way done, but I've got 2/3 left. And that hopefully will start looking like my son. Because there's nothing worse than doing a portrait of somebody they're like, they don't look like me. So anyway, but no, I'm not starting an art channel either. I will stick with criminal profiling. So anyway, that was just to point out that a lot of times when we do have immediate thoughts. And when you're doing investigations and you're talking, and gets to be really tricky. When you're talking to parents, you take, for example, Lucy Letby. Her friend said, I thought she was the nicest girl. Really? I don't know. What weren't you seeing? And we see this sometimes with male serial killers as well, that they'll get all the way through high school and they'll think, oh, they were okay. And then they turn out to be a serial killer. And they're like, well, why didn't we see it? Well, maybe because you aren't good at seeing these things. Maybe your profiling skills kind of suck, especially when you're a kid. They really suck. Families they have that denial thing going. So they try not to see the things that what might make up a more concerning profile of the person that is their relative. So a lot of times when you talk to families, talk to friends, you got to be very careful of what, their profile may not be accurate. And so you have to start gathering all this information and look for as many facts as you can find to determine what is actually going on. And then regardless of what you find out, you have to go to the crime scene and see if the details of the crime scene have anything to do with who the person even is. It could be that, let's go to Rachel Morin. I'll point this out with her. So Rachel Morin, who was sadly found murdered on a bike path or a walking path in Maryland. It's called the Ma and Pa Trail. Let me get my glasses back on, try to see. The Ma and Pa Trail. Let's see, where's the Ma and Pa Trail? Here it is. Okay, this is it's in Maryland. It's a sort of a suburb of Baltimore, but yeah, sort of. Ma and Pa Heritage Trail. And I'm finding this very interesting, the trail itself, because one of the problems you have when you aren't working on the case, if you're not involved with the police department, if you aren't able to go to location, you do not know what you are looking at. Are you looking at a path that has so many people on it, with no trees on it, going around like a little pond? Like near me, there is a location, which is actually, there was a woman who was killed like 40 years ago in my town of Bowie. But there's a place called Allen Pond, which most of the time there's so many people on. If you're walking during daylight hours, there's no way anybody's going to grab you. Everybody can see everybody. Only if you went there at like dawn when nobody was there yet, or dusk when everybody had left, you could have a problem. But I didn't know what this Ma and Pa Trail was. And so when they said Rachel Morin had been murdered there, first of all, I don't have enough information on how she was murdered. The police have kept that quiet. They're keeping that at this point, they don't see any purpose in giving that to the public. So they're waiting to hopefully catch the guy and then ask the guy, what did you do? And he will give his story. And if it matches, then it's one of those things where he matches the evidence and that helps you prove that he did it. So far, we have heard, only thing I've heard is that she supposedly was hit by a rock. It was brutal, but I don't know that that's true. I also heard from one place that she was naked, but I don't know if that's true. But then when I'm looking now at the location, she let me go back here a second, just for a minute. So this is the way Rachel looked, and she did have a lot of dating sites she was hooked up with. She is obviously spending a lot of money on her features, which then you say, where does the money come from when you have 5 children? And she's supposed to do some housekeeping, but is that where you get enough money for work, or are your dating sites something more than dating sites? Do I know? No, I don't. But if I were an investigator, would I have had to look at this? Yes. It's not victim blaming. It's not insulting the victim. It's like, I have to look at this because I have to find out whether you could have hooked up through somebody through a dating site, or some people suggested, and I looked at it, I thought that myself. Does she have OnlyFans? Sorry, that's just, you see that because you look at the person and say, what are they involved in? If this is so, you have to look to see whether she could have met somebody and that person could have killed her. You want to find her killer. It's not about judging her. It's about finding her killer. And if she's involved in very risky behavior, that could lead to the killer. Likewise with the boyfriend, his DNA did not match at the crime scene. Boy, is he thrilled because a lot of people thought it was him because he has a kind of a criminal background, shall we say, with some violence in it, domestic violence. And he'd only hooked up with her fairly recently. And he was like, oh, I'm in love with her. It was like about a month. And like, what the heck? He all like, I don't know this guy. If I were an investigator, I'd have to find out where he was, exactly what he was doing. Was he jealous of her? Did he find these websites and get jealous? Did he know about the websites and didn't care? Maybe she just was on the websites and hadn't gotten rid of them. Now that she'd met this great guy, she hadn't gotten rid of them yet. Maybe she hadn't pulled herself off yet. Doesn't mean she's dating anybody else. On the other hand, she could be involved in sex work. The investigator doesn't know. So they have to look at all these people and all these possibilities. Now, let me tell you what they found so far. Amazingly enough, at that location, they had DNA, which is really so lucky. They have the killer's DNA. The killer's DNA matches to a guy out in California, out in Los Angeles. And they do not know who he is. They have his DNA, it matches another crime. It's a home invasion / sexual assault or rape. Supposedly, and again, I'm hearing a little bit of vague stuff on this 11-year-old girl. Now, he's not in the system. That means he has not ever been charged with a felony in the United States of America. 2 possibilities. He's never committed a felony, which is why he's not in the system. 2, he's not from the U.S. And it's L.A., so he could easily be from. They say he's Hispanic. Here's a picture of him. They say that he looks Hispanic to them, about 160 pounds. They said he's pretty. I think he's pretty built. So I don't know. He's probably like 5'9". So could he be El Salvadorian? Could he be Guatemalan? I don't know. Could he just have recently arrived and have no record in the United States? I have no clue. But he went from LA to Maryland and committed 2 crimes. Unfortunately, it's kind of a strange thing. People have been pointing this out, and so I'm going to point it out. I'm going to let them point this out. All right. By the way, what is a home invasion? And I looked that up specifically, not because I don't know what a home invasion is, but I wanted to give you a better idea of what a home invasion is, because a lot of people are like, well, if it was a home invasion, why is the dude leaving without anything? He didn't steal one thing. The home invasions, we always think of home invasions. Somebody breaks in your house to steal your crap, right? While you're home. So a burglar comes in when you're not home. A home invasion, people come in when you're home. But let me explain this more clearly. A home invasion, also called a hot prowl burglary. And here we have, when you say hot prowl burglary, then you have the idea that they're there to steal things, all right? Which I'm not so fond of. Anyway, in which an offender unlawfully enters a building residence while the occupants are inside. The overarching intent of a hot prowl burglary, I just don't like that term. I'll go with home invasion, can be theft, robbery, assault, sexual assault, murder, kidnapping, or another crime, either by stealth or by force, or by direct force. They're very dangerous because, of course, as opposed to a burglar when nobody's home, you don't have the danger to the occupants of the house. When you have somebody break in when the occupants are there, that's a problem. Now, mind you, I'm not sure when home invasion included what I would consider, or I don't know, call it regular, but when a serial killer crawls through the window, rapes and murders somebody, or a serial rapist crawls through the window and rapes somebody, I've never thought of those as home invasions. Yes, they broke into the house to do it, but I guess home invasion for me has always been a bit different, but they're now sort of grouping that together. So in this case, the claim is that, and I say claim because I have no idea the validity. This is what the police are saying, and that's what they're saying. This guy supposedly committed a home invasion at this home, and then he walked away. Now, a lot of people have noticed something interesting. They have noticed that as he's leaving, first of all, he's leaving without his shirt even on. He's just kind of like, and he strolls away. They see a hand there, and the hand he leaves the place, and then this person closes the door after him, which a lot of people think is pretty odd for a home invasion. That includes the rape of essentially a child. So this guy rapes a child, let's say wherever, I don't know where he rapes her. Let's say he rapes her in the living room. I say rapes her in the bedroom, rapes her in the kitchen. And after she's finished raping her, she leads him to the door and lets him out and closes the door after him. It's a little weird. You would think after that, the guy would just take off. And then maybe later you'd see the girl run up and slam the door. But you see her at the door. He goes away and she shuts the door after him. And it's a little strange. Almost looks like not home invasion, except the police say this is an 11-year-old and she was raped. So, and here, by the way, here's another picture. This is him strolling away. And you see, he doesn't even have gloves on. He doesn't, so he's not covering up fingerprints. I'm assuming they have fingerprints, but they've got DNAs. I don't know if the fingerprints are going to make a difference at this point, but they might match up to other crimes yet. So the question is, what really happened in the house? What kind of home invasion was it? And they're saying 11-year-old girl was raped. If 11-year-old girl was raped, it's rape. But there's people who say, well, it looks like she let him in and let him out. Well, maybe so. But it was reported to the police. So keep that in mind. It was reported as an assault, and they got DNA. So I'm not sure. Well, I can't say what happened. I can't say whether it was a guy broke in and attacked this girl, or whether he convinced her to let him in, and then he raped her, or didn't rape her, but she's 11, and then the parents turned him in. I haven't got a clue. All we know at this point, because I don't know the details of that crime. Obviously, it's a crime, but I don't know the details. But he left his DNA, so he's not a very careful dude. You know what I mean? He's got no gloves on, so he didn't. And then he goes and commits a crime against Rachel Morin, and still doesn't have. It still leaves the DNA. So it's possible that he is not a U.S. citizen. He came across the border and isn't worried about being anybody getting his DNA. He's just not worried about it. So that's a theory, but we don't know. But here's something. So now the question is, how did he run into Rachel Morin? Now, in theory, okay, we have two possible theories. One is there's three. One is she went to meet him at the park and something went wrong. Like she said no and he said yes. Or he's a stalker, saw her at the gym, getting her tans, doing her weightlifting because he looks like he's, like he does something like that. Did he see her at the gym and follow her? Did he stalk her and kill her? 3, was it a paid thing? 4, was it none of these things? And the girl's just out there because she likes to keep in good shape, and she's running in the park. So do we know which one of these things is true? And again, this is not the point of the show is to think through things, in a teaching show, not an accusing show, not a saying, I know this is what happened type of show. It's how do you think in these cases? Okay, for me, I have 4 choices. That she hooked up with him, that he stalked her, well, maybe 3, basically. She hooked up with him for one reason or another. He stalked her, or he was just in the park. And she went running by, and he said, hot dang, this is my victim. Those are the 3. What would I do as a police officer? Because I'm aware of some risky behavior she appears to be involved with. Now that we've eliminated boyfriend's gone. So that risky behavior of hooking up with a guy, knowing him for a very short period of time, and him having a background, that was risky, but he's clear. So now we have the other possibilities. So they're going to have, if I were them, I'd be checking cameras over at the gym, any place that she was after she left the house. I'd be looking at all the cameras to see if she was followed or stalked by some creepy dude. And I'd also be checking who she contacted through websites. Then there's the final option. And now this is a lot of things I don't know. Now, here we are, this mom and pop trail again. What kind of trail was it? Well, remember I said, I didn't know if this was like one of these where there's tons of people around or whatever. I don't know if she could have met somebody there and then walked off into some other place. But look at this trail. That is isolated. That's a lot of trees. This is where women should not go by themselves. And yes, there might be other people on the trail, but do you see how easy it would be to pull a person off that trail into a location where nobody else can see them or stop that person from doing something to them? Then, to add to that, they said, and originally they said something about her body being in a tunnel. When they said that, I didn't know what that even freaking meant. I didn't know if the walkway went through a tunnel, which I thought, if you're following somebody and you're going to attack them and you attack them in the tunnel, how do you know there's not other people going to come in one of those ends of the tunnel then? That didn't make a lot of sense to me. Now I've seen that this is the possible thing, that it's not a tunnel, it's a drainage pipe, essentially. Now, could he have pulled her off a path and then pulled her into the drainage pipe? Well, yes, because first of all, she's off the path and he hits her with a rock. He can then rape her, and then he can kill her and then drag her body further into this spot, or he can force her into the spot and attack her there, although it doesn't look very pleasant. But you see how many details, little things that can make all the difference if you were a detective or a profiler working on the case. So a lot of times from the outside, people like to jump to conclusions or attack people who say, hey, could this be, oh, how could you say that? Well, because we don't have the inside information. We aren't getting all the facts of the case so that we can analyze it. And we have to ask those questions. We have to, because I can't tell you how many times people will say things. My daughter would never be involved in that. And their daughter is involved in that. And that's what got her killed. And if you want to find her killer, you have to know who she is and what she will do. Whether it be take risks, hitchhiking. Maybe a long time ago, people used to hitchhike a lot. Have I ever hitchhiked? Yes. Only once, though. It was in Togo, West Africa. I was like stuck. I was like stuck couldn't get a ride to the city. And was that risky behavior? Yes. Would my parents have ever, I only did it once in my life. Although, I will admit, sometimes I think of other risky behavior. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure my parents at that time would say, oh, she would never hitchhike. And generally speaking, I never did in my life, except that one time. But see, that's all you need, one time. Luckily, the guy who picked me up, I can't remember who it was, took me to the Capitol, and that was that. And so sometimes, I remember one other time. My car broke down on the Beltway, the Washington, D.C. Beltway, 495, between exits at night, broke down. And the exit was like walking to this exit, walking to this, it was freezing cold. And it was like an equal distance to either exit, freezing cold out there. And I'm out there in the dark. And this was quite a few years ago. So I was maybe how old would I have been? Maybe in my 30s, maybe, attractive enough to any serial killer going by. Anyway, first guy pulls up and he says to me, can I help you? And being out, he says, hey, you need a ride. I'll take you to where you need to go. And again, I was concerned about getting in a stranger's car. So I said to him, this was the days of payphones existed. So I said, no, I don't need a ride. I'm going to stay here with my car. Can I give you my husband's phone number? And here's the money to make the phone call to my husband to let him know where I am. He looked at me, he took the money and he chucked it and threw it and then drove off. I think I made the right decision, not getting in the dude's car. But then time went on, I started freezing. And another guy pulled up and said, do you need help? And I said, yes. And I said, I did the same thing. Here's my husband. He says, fine, I'll go call him and whatever. He said, because there was no phone at that time. I guess there was no phone. I don't know what that. Oh, I was using a pager. So I guess cell phones didn't exist back then. So, and at some point in time, I said, no. Can you give me a ride in? And he said, yes. And I got in his car and I went with him because he became the lesser of two evils in my profiling methodology. But you see, this is how things work. So we don't always really know what a person will do. And we also know if they're involved in certain things that raises their risk level. We have higher risk levels and lower risk levels. And we have to look at that to see whether this could have gotten them in trouble. This could have gotten them to run into their killer. This could have given the killer the opportunity to do something. Maybe you're too nice and somebody says, hey, excuse me, can you come over to my car and can you tell me where this place is? And that sweet person goes over to the car and then they're grabbed and thrown in the car. Maybe a person who's not so sweet will go, no, I don't need to tell you anything. Why don't you go to the gas station? And she would survive. So you have to learn about people and all what they're doing as an investigator or profiler. And you can't sit here and waste your time or everybody's going to think about what you think. Because you got to think those things and then find out how accurate they are and if there's any truth to them, what the facts show. And there's a lot of work that goes into then eventually determining. So Rachel Morin was killed, it would appear, as far as I know, on that bike path. How she came in contact with a killer, I still do not know. Those are my three basic options. Which one do I think is most likely? At this point, I think it's most likely that he's a serial killer who was just on the path. That's the one I think is most likely. But if I want to find her killer, I can't just jump to that conclusion. I might have to check to see whether he's also a stalker or whether maybe he's a serial killer who hooks up with, hey, isn't there a guy named Rex Heuermann who contacted women through sites, internet sites? Did he contact her through an internet site? I don't know. So that's the thing. You got to check out all those things. You want to catch the guy. He's dangerous. If it was a sexual homicide, he's extremely dangerous. We've got to get him off the street because other women will be killed. So we can't sit here playing our, let me not offend you games. We got to find out what the truth is. But, it takes work to find out what the truth is because sitting at the pool, you have people who think I'm low IQ, a pervert, and some people think I do cooking shows. I mean, you're all wrong, but that's where your starting point is. And then you might have to go and talk to people and find out, what does Pat Brown really read? Is Pat Brown a swinger? You got to ask these questions. It's not an insult to me. You got to find that out. She was at the book reading this book on S&M. Hey, we want to know if she's a swinger because maybe she ended up dead because she is a swinger. You got to find that out, and not be so worried about everybody being, I'm so insulted crap, You got to do what you got to do if you're trying to investigate a case. Now, sometimes you can do it wrongly. You can be rude. You can be insulting. You can not actually check out the facts. You can assume something and never actually then check the facts out. I think that woman's a swinger. Oh, don't just assume that. You saw somebody said something because I'm reading that book, find out. Then you come to my house, you ask people, you say, hey, your mom got knocked off. So she was reading this book and my kids would go, dang, Ma. But hey, go look at her book collection. And they go and look at my book collection and say, oh my God, she's a criminal profiler. Look how many books she has on sadism. Now, having said that, just because I am a criminal profiler and have books on sadism doesn't mean I'm not a swinger and don't like S&M. See, then you get into that situation. Just because I study this stuff doesn't mean I'm not that kind of person. And it's so interesting because you have to be, it's much more difficult than people think. Anyway, you got 141 comments, which I'm not going to be able to get to, but I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was just so interesting, all of that. So anyway, Pat's no prude. Oh, I think Pat is right about right. No rabbit holes. Well, you have to be. The problem with rabbit holes is that when we go to some certain grifter channels, which annoy the living heck out of me, they create the rabbit hole. All right, they dig the rabbit hole for the rabbits to go into. Okay, and the rabbits make them money. They don't care what the facts are, the truth is, or anything realistic or reasonable. They'll go down. They'll dig every hole they can dig. Now, if you do that as a profiler or as an investigator, you're not good at your job. You can't go down that many holes. Okay, you can pick. You have to look at the facts and say, I've got to check this out. But you don't start saying really stupid stuff, which make no sense. And especially after you've worked on the case for a long time and you have a clue, how things are going. And then there's these people out there who are just making up a whole bunch of nonsense. And they're not doing it in the correct way. Now, I'm bringing this up on my show, not because I'm solving the case of Rachel Morin or that I think you should solve the case of Rachel Morin. I'm just trying to explain how the detectives have to think looking at this case and how not to mess up. Because, yes, I have worked on cases where detectives did get tunnel vision and never look another way. And they made an assumption without investigating the facts and making sure that there wasn't something else. And you've seen this on quite a number of my shows, especially some of the cases I've worked on, where I'm like, well, why did you go down that avenue and never check any other avenue out? Or why, or sometimes, why did you jump to this weird conclusion when none of the evidence actually supported this conclusion? Or maybe it was a reasonable possibility, but because it was a reasonable possibility, you didn't bother with the evidence. So these are things you have to look at the evidence. You have to see what the evidence tells you. And in the Rachel Morin case, I don't know because I don't have access to the crime scene photos. I don't know all the details about the actual location and when she was last seen and yada, yada, yada. I don't know that stuff. But you have to be, you can't be unwilling, shall I say, also to check out the possibilities because you don't know until you check them out. Nobody knows who criminal profiler Pat Brown is. Sitting at the pool, they don't know who I am. They see all these different books. They don't know what that represents until they investigate further. And then they would find out from my reading with my granddaughter. I'm a lover of good children's literature. I love Heidi. It's one of the best books ever written. I love A Little Princess. I think it's fabulous. There's so many children's books. Well, not so many. Actually, there aren't enough. Good children's books out there, I think, are phenomenally well written. A lot of the recent stuff I'm not so thrilled about, but some of the real classics I really like. And I like classical literature in general. So that's why you'll see me with The Count of Monte Cristo. I love Moby Dick. I love David Copperfield. These are things I love. And then you see then you see my books, my criminal profiling books, and you'll find certain things like the story of O, and you would hopefully realize that is limited to my criminal profiling work and is not next to my bed with 10 other books on S&M. So there we go. I'm trying to go back here now. Wait a minute. I'm going to go up to the top because there's so many questions here. I want to make sure I answer some of the questions. Because one of the reasons I like to do the Hangouts especially is to answer these kind of questions. Yeah, this is actually true. People used to hitchhike a lot, which shocks me. My generation was taught absolutely never to do that. We finally realized, I think the 70s and 60s were really big in hitchhiking, and then a lot of people got killed. And I think after a while they realized it was not a safe thing to do. So, they sort of pushed and stopped doing that. And put out to stop doing that. Let's see. If it was planned, he would have been more prepared. More prepared for what? We don't know anything about as far as a predator in a park, just waiting for an opportunity. Yes, I mean, serial killers many times will just wander through parks. And most of the time they don't kill anybody, but when they get that moment and it's there, they use a couple of things. Rocks are very useful because Rocks are actually great because you don't even have to take them with you. You don't have a knife or a gun, just whack them over the head. I mean, it's whack-a-mole, you know what I mean? It's like, and it causes immediate concussion. She's not dead, but she's useful still. And sometimes you don't care if she's dead. So, that works too. But, using a knife or a gun, there's other issues there. First of all, for a gun, you have to get the gun. It makes noise. And a knife, some of the serial killers don't like knives because they end up cutting themselves. And then they leave DNA through the cut, which this guy could have done, by the way. I don't know if the DNA is semen DNA or blood DNA or saliva DNA. I don't know what it is. But clearly he was there. And so it's him, but who it is, we don't know. But they have a lot of reasons. A lot of guys will just come up behind and choke the woman out. So, but they're rarely prepared. This is not the kind of crime where they're luring somebody and have a rape kit in their trunk. This is a completely different type of serial homicide. But if he raped and murdered her, he's a serial killer. So that's enough. Okay. I don't think he cares enough to stalk. Well, Kohberger's not a serial killer. Kohberger's a mass murderer at this point. And it's kind of funny because I really did think this was his first crime. And most people do not. They think, oh my God, he's got to killed all these other people. And I don't think so. I don't. And he's not a serial killer. This was his moment in the sun, just like any other mass murderer. A lot of mass murderers will kill and have their big day and die at the end of it. Or they'll kill and then they'll go to prison, but they'll get their names all over. That's their day in the sun. How many people can I kill at one time? I think Kohberger, he's not proven to be guilty yet. He hasn't gone to trial. And he has an alibi, which is driving around by himself all night. Okay. But he's not guilty yet. But if it's him, he targeted this group of women, or one woman or two women. We just don't know how many he targeted. And it was, to me, an incel crime. It's an incel mass murder. It's like, this is his moment in the sun. And that gives you that feeling of power and control you never thought you could get any other way. So he's not a serial killer. So as far as I know, now can I be wrong? Not necessarily. Let's say, clear across the country. Now, why did he come clear across the country? This is another issue, which, so he's in LA and suddenly he's in Maryland. My guess is he either left LA because he was being sought for the murder. Sought for the home invasion / sexual assault in LA, or the dude just didn't have, a job over there and didn't have a person to live with. So he just took off. Who knows? Maybe a friend of his was says, I'm going to Maryland. I got a cousin in Maryland. He jumps in the car and he's in Maryland. 3 days later, he's in Maryland. Maryland has a very strong Hispanic community. Maybe he's got relatives. I have no clue. Maybe he came across the border, lived in LA for a while, and then took off to Maryland. It's been 6 months since that happened in LA. We have no idea what he's here, but he's not necessarily here to be a predator. If that was a true a true rape out in California and wasn't and by the way, I say this again, not knowing the details of the case. If he had sex with a child who's 11 years old, he is a criminal and he committed a thing called rape. Now, he could say it was consensual, and it could have been consensual. Not saying it was, but, 11-year-old cannot consent. And if a parent found out an 11-year-old had done this and even if they'd consented, they might want to damn well get that son of a gun, and get him arrested for statutory rape. It's not okay. It's absolutely 100% not okay. But the thing is, it's just one was looking at what kind of person, what kind of crimes is he committing? Now, this is a true sexual assault. He home invaded, he assaulted the girl. Then he made the girl go to the door and let him out and told her, oh, I will say this. Here's a real possibility, which people don't look at. Sometimes they will play I'm going to take care of you as a predator. They do this. It's like, okay, now that I've raped you, so I broke into your house, I raped you. And now that you're crying, you say, okay, stop, get over it. It's like, this was a good thing I did. And what I want you to do is don't tell your parents, because your parents are going to be mad at you. So what I want you to do is I want you to bring me to the door. Okay. And on the way out, he says, honey, Don't be calling the police because you know it's just going to be embarrassing and humiliating for you. Hey, you're 11 years old. It's time for you to be with dudes anyway. So I'm just helping you out. So just close the door nicely. Don't call the police. He may have said that. And that's why it looks like she's cooperating, you see? So these things are all very confusing. I wasn't in the police interview with the girl. She may have, absolutely 100% the guy broke in and raped her, which, considering now that he is the suspect in the Rachel Morin killing, I'm going to say the likelihood of him being a serial killer is pretty strong. Now, in that case, he didn't kill anybody. In this case, he did. Why is that? Is it because she fought back? Now, unlike the 11-year-old, did she fight back and therefore he killed her in the process of trying to rape her? And it wasn't an intended killing? In which case, okay, then we'll call him a serial rapist and not a serial killer because he hasn't gotten to the point where he's killing for the purpose of killing. So here's the difference with sexual homicides, which we call serial killer. When a guy chooses to rape and kill a woman, specifically, when he picks his victim out, he intends to rape and kill. He doesn't intend to rape and accidentally kill. He chooses her to rape and kill. Once he does that, it's likely he's going to do that again. He's going to choose to rape and kill. He's a serial killer. But there are occasions where a guy will be committing a rape and it'll get out of hand for him because there's a fight. The victim fights back. And then it becomes it's a sexual homicide, but not an intended sexual homicide. The question after that is, if he is a serial rapist who made an error and got out of hand, he may not become a serial killer. But he should be a suspected serial killer. Because one of the things you also learn, if you're a serial rapist and like to do this a lot, one thing you learn is you shouldn't leave a witness alive. Maybe that 11-year-old was a witness that he left alive and that really didn't work out well for him. She ratted him out. Even though he told her not to, she ratted him out. So now when he gets to Rachel Morin, he's like, yeah, you're not going to come out of this alive. In which case, you're a serial killer. So there you go. So yes, it is. Your question here was, they don't have his name, but his DNA match. That's correct. Anthony says a DNA match. That's correct. So that's a done deal. What? I'm assuming you're being sarcastic, Michaela. You haven't learned anything from my shows yet, but I think you're being sarcastic. Oh, my goodness. And this could be wrong place at the wrong time. Well, as people point out, are you in the wrong place when you have the right to be there? And you have the right to be at the right time. So, well, it wasn't even dark, which is interesting because usually it's at least dusk, and I don't believe it was dusk. Wait a minute. Although I don't know that. Okay. I actually don't know the exact time of dusk on that day. And I don't know exactly when she was killed. She was last seen at a certain time, which was still bright and it was still summer, but she was killed. We don't know when. So is it possible she ran too long and too far? And as she was coming back, and this is a great time for a serial killer to get you, by the way. They see a woman going that direction and they lurk around in the bushes. And all the other people have already come home. They're walking their little doggies and they're getting in their cars and everybody's going home. And Rachel ends up being the last one, the straggler on the path. Maybe she got tired and started walking. Now it's dusk. She's by herself. Nobody else is there. And that serial killer knows that she has taken too long to get back to the car. That's when she gets killed. So I would be more willing to believe that she was killed because she took too long to get back to the vehicle. And if that is true, that is most likely a serial killer. So, and serial killers, they may be in the park over and over and over again and not get an opportunity for a very long time. And finally, they get this opportunity. So a lot of people think, well, it's the guy like jumps out and gets lucky the first time. It's not true. They spend a lot of time trolling and looking for people, looking for opportunities. They're predators. They look for opportunities. And when they find a good opportunity, they grab it. He had no weapon that we know of. We don't know anything about what he had. We have not been told how she died. We don't know if she's bludgeoned to death, strangled, stabbed. We haven't got a clue. because that information is not out there yet at all. Oh, that's interesting. There must be a lot of people. The sign at the park tells you where additional parking is. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's very north of me. I'm in Bowie, so it's about, I guess, 40-minute drive. So I've never been there. I haven't got a clue. She was only 107 pounds. Yeah, one of the things serial killers do like those small girls. As I said, if you're a big Amazonian woman, you're pretty safe, and you're probably being killed by your boyfriend. But if you're serial killers, like small packages, they prefer trophies if they can get them, and they don't want to have a fight. She was in good shape. It wasn't that, but women in good shape often feel they can fight. And I'm sorry, but you can be in great shape. You can take boxing. You can take, you can be an MMA fighter. You better be one of those things. When the guy hits you over the back of the head with a rock, you can't fight. That's the problem. It's not like they come and go, "Hi, I want to rape you. Let's have a fight." You're jogging along. You finally go, "Whew," and you're walking along, get your earbuds in or whatever. Dude's behind a tree, and as you walk by, he goes, "Wham!" You don't fight after that. That's how you lose. When you go into the ring, you don't lose right away because you get to meet your opponent. You get to put up your fist. You get to fight. But when you're walking down a path, your opponent is not in front of you. He's behind you, hiding behind a tree. So that's how you get killed. All right. So anyway, I'm going to go on. I want to talk about the next question has been about Heuermann, Rex Heuermann. There's a claim, or not a claim, a suspicion. So a suspicion that he might have murdered this woman named Julia Ann Bean. She is from Sumter County, and I think is that South Carolina? Blanking now. She was last seen in 2017. All right. And it says, gives some descriptions of her. It says she's not on medication. It says that what happened to her. Okay, let me get to what happened to her. All right. So the question could this be a victim of Rex Heuermann? Now, Rex Heuermann, if you don't know, is the suspected Long Island serial killer. Or I take that back. Gilgo Beach. He has not been linked to all the Long Island serial killings, just the Gilgo Beach area by DNA. So he's a very good suspect, and he will be going to trial. I'm not saying he's guilty yet, but he's a darn good suspect. Okay, now let me tell you a little bit about this woman, and this again is very interesting, and why it's important to know people's what they do for their activities. Okay. Hold on a second. I got to find they're missing. Come on now. Let's not do this. I always have this problem. Okay, here we go. One of the problems is when an iPad brings up these things, it blocks out the actual article, and it just has a white space till you click on it. So it's really annoying. All right. So it says here, this is from the New York Post. Daughter of missing South Carolina woman believes she was last seen with Gilgo suspect Rex Heuermann. Now, let's see what it says. A family and friends of a missing South Carolina woman reportedly fear she was last with the suspected serial killer Rex Heuermann. Julia, the daughter, immediately recognized Heuermann, 59, when shown a photo of the suspected serial killer, who owns a home in the Palmetto Estate. So he's in the area. So the first thing is, could he have committed this crime? Well, if you're a serial killer and you move around into different locations, yes, you can. You want to check every serial killer's previous homes. You want to check every place they've been on business. You want to check every place they have friends and relatives. All of these things, because you don't know when they started serial killing. So you got to check everything. So supposedly he's in the area. She said, that was the last man I saw her with. Now, is that true? Here we go. As an investigator, you're not really sure. You're not sure whether she's now imagining that, or she's conflating what with the looks of this guy with the looks of Heuermann, or she's just making it up. You don't have any idea. But anyway, clearly her mom's missing and never been found, so something's happened to her. Right? She recognized him right away as the last person she ever saw with her mom. I truly believe Rex Heuermann did something to my friend. Oh, this is another person, to my friend. All right, so they're investigating, which they should. Now, the next question I have is, how did she come in contact with Rex Heuermann? All right, because we have, generally speaking, now, mind you, serial killers do not always do things the same way. Ted Bundy liked to lure college girls, but then he went into a college sorority and killed a bunch of people. And then he did get that young 10-year-old, I think she was 10. So not always does a serial killer use the same MO, all right? They can choose different kinds of victims. They can choose different circumstances. They can change over time, depending on what works better at one time than the other. So you can't always be sure just because something has changed in the MO, but you do want to look to see if are there similarities in South Carolina, in this case, to Rex Heuermann. Now, I found this fascinating. Bean's daughter last saw her mom at a nail salon the night before her high school graduation. Bean arrived in a dark truck driven by a man her daughter now believes to be Heuermann, but who introduced himself by another name. All right. So it says here, Bean's daughter texted that the mystery man with her mom that night told me he has lake houses and big boats if I ever wanted to have a boat party. He also offered to take me to a concert and told me he wanted to marry my mom. I never saw her again after that night. Now, goes on to say here, and this is where I thought it got interesting. They said that Bean, who struggled with substance abuse, left home without her bag and her phone and her drugs. She always had her drugs. Even her daughter said she left her dope kit. She just walked out of her house. Kovas also said, whoever this friend, that her pal, quote, was more than likely escorting. Her daughter mentioned a few different men who were giving her money. She never told me about doing sex work or anything like that, but that's not something she talked to me about anyway. All right. Now we see a more likely connection to Rex Heuermann, which is sex work. So this is, again, why the police have to investigate these different things, because you can't say, well, you know, everybody gets these labels. I'm a grandma. She's a mom. You know, these do not work for investigators. They have to go a little further than that. And if this is the case that she's hooked up with different dudes for money, Rex Heuermann does the same thing up there in Long Island, right? So is he a good suspect? He has a place. He has a location down there. He was in the area. Generally speaking, I don't know if he was there at that time. They have to investigate that, and that he did seem to choose women in sex work. Now, does that mean it's Rex Heuermann? No, it doesn't. There could be another dude right in the area who's a serial killer too. So we don't know. And of course, I think she's still missing. So we don't even know if she's dead. But should they look into Rex Heuermann? Yes. And on that same note, let's look at Dennis Rader. Now, Dennis Rader is also being looked at for other crimes. Dennis Rader is being looking at, let's see, this woman on the left, Cynthia Kinney, 16, went missing after leaving a relative's laundromat. Now, all right, this would be interesting right here. He's suspected in the death of Kinney. She went missing, but this is not his MO. His MO is home invasion. If you're going to use that term, home invasion, and I'm going to use it, I guess, because it's now popular. All right, he attacked women in their homes. He attacked everybody in their homes that we know of. This woman was not attacked in her home. She was clearly would have been abducted from the street. And she's 16. She was a teenager. So we don't see the same MO here at all. So is it Dennis Rader, or is it just one of these things where you're just trying to connect him to like anybody who's gone missing? Again, we have often more than one serial killer in the area. But this has become a buzz now. Oh my God, they're finding more things. Okay. He's had previous properties. Should they investigate the previous properties like they should with Rex Heuermann? Yes, they should. The Oklahoma sheriff said items of interest have been found on the property over the past 2 days. One of them was a pantyhose ligature on a former Kansas property. All right. So they located a pantyhose ligature. All right. Does that mean the pantyhose ligature was used? No. Is there another possibility for the pantyhose to be in a ligature form? Yes. Some women, because the little pantyhose have the hangy leggy things, they like to put them away by tying them together so that they aren't flipping everywhere. They just tie them together and put them there. That could be what that is. Do I know? No, I don't. And do they know? No, they don't. So they're going to have to do more investigation. So anyway, they're searching properties, and they're like digging up a lot of crap. Here's one of the locations. They're digging up his backyards and looking underneath cement to see if he hidden trophies. Now, mind you, he said that he had hidden trophies. He told others that he had hidden some trophies where they'd never be found. Well, I don't know that you would never find trophies underneath the cement in your backyard, because God knows how many people have hidden bodies under cement. So anyway, this particular location is a 2-hour drive from his. No, wait a minute. This is a different one. Let me see here a second. What? Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure this out. Oh, they're talking about Osage County is about a 2-hour drive from Rader's former Kansas home. Is this the girl in Osage County? I'm not sure. It says we aren't looking for bodies. We're looking for items. We did find some items. We can't release what they are. The guy said it's not clear if the newly recovered evidence is connected to the 10 known murders or other cases. These are the ones he confessed to as what he claimed he was BTK, and that he killed 10 people. So let's say Cindy. Cindy, it said that Under Sheriff Gary Upton previously said that the search spiraled from the investigation into Cynthia Dawn Kinney, a 16-year-old cheerleader who was last seen leaving a laundromat in June 23 of 1976. He wasn't arrested until 2005. And they're also looking at the disappearance of Shauna Garber, who disappeared in 1990. So in addition to the Kinney and Garber cases, they're also looking into the chance that Rader could be connected to additional unsolved cases. This is where the media gets ahead of themselves. In my opinion, I don't care what the police dig up, because first of all, Dennis Rader is one of those guys that will have no problem telling them to go dig up stuff and there's nothing there and he can laugh about it. He can claim he killed people he didn't kill. Serial killers like to get attention. They like to manipulate, and they get a kick out of watching these people scurry around and do their like, now you're looking over there, aren't you? Yeah. On the other hand, sometimes they will actually be telling the truth and you don't know which one it is. Sometimes they will tell that, oh, I killed this girl. Let me go show you where I killed her. And then they get a free ride out of the prison and they get to stop at McDonald's, and they do that. So you can't trust anything a serial killer says, because he's a psychopath and a pathological liar. So stop believing him. However, if you're the police, the problem is you're trying to close cold cases and you're like, I got to try. And so because he said this, I'm going to try. Should they dig up his previous places and see if they can find anything? Absolutely. Should they look at him to be connected to other cases? The same with Rex Heuermann. Absolutely. But the media loves to run with these things and start claiming things that there's no proof of. You know, there's more than one serial killer out there. So we have no clue that he committed these other two crimes to these other two females who went missing. And one wasn't even his MO. Although, so it's like, it gets frustrating for me sometimes, because people say, oh my God, now there's new information. It's not really. It's just part of an investigation. It's an ongoing investigation. Now, if they find something with DNA, let's say that pantyhose has DNA that matches the girl that went missing, good. That's fantastic. Now they have information. In the Rachel Morin case, they actually got a piece of evidence that led to a video that can help people identify the killer. And so if they get evidence of something, yes, we'll be excited. But sometimes it's just like, every time the police go out and investigate anything, people just jump, oh my God, they killed this one too. It's like, no, not necessarily. Stop jumping to conclusions. We don't know yet. We have not a clue. It's often more than one serial killer in an area at a time. And by the way, I will say this just because I always feel like I should say this. This is one of if you haven't seen my Dennis Rader videos yet, I've done 2 of them. I went out to Wichita, Kansas I had a suspect out there who was one of the suspects of the police who had connections. That suspect had connections to the Otero and Bright murders. Joseph Otero, Julia Otero, and their 2 children, especially the little girl, were killed. Catherine Bright was killed. So there's 5 murders that occurred. All these 3 were connected to a specific corporation where they worked, and so did this suspect of mine. And Dennis Rader did not work there. I believe Dennis Rader 100% is a serial killer. I'm not convinced he's BTK. And so you'll have to watch my other, the original BTK. I think he's a copycat BTK, but you'd have to watch my other videos to understand what I'm saying here. Am I absolutely sure? No, I'm not. But there's some really squirrely things that went on with the case of Dennis Rader, and the way they connected him was really concerning. And the district attorney and I had some words, and she said some of the things she said. I'm not convinced that Dennis Rader is the original BTK. I'm not convinced he committed the Otero crimes or the Catherine Bright murder. So check out my videos on the Dennis Rader case. There's 2 of them, or at least 2 of them, if not 3. I can't remember now. Yeah, he's a serial killer, not a question. But again, there's always sometimes more than one. And let's see. Let me check out your comments before I go on. Let's see. Having trouble with the little slider thing here. Dennis Rader does admit to everything, and that's the problem. When you're dealing with a pathological liar, the question is how much of it is true. Because the more he can confess to, the better deal he can get. His confessions got him out of the death penalty. If you look at my video on the Superbike murders of South Carolina, where Todd Cole, a serial killer, confessed to the mass murder in Superbike. He confessed to that mass murder because he got out of the death penalty on the serial homicides and ended up with life because he confessed to a mass murder he did not commit. Yeah, he got convicted of it because he confessed to it, but he has all the confession wrong. Check out my stuff on that, and you'll see this is not a rabbit hole. This is evidence. I have evidence. And unfortunately, that was one of the cases where corruption did exist. So, yeah. So you have to be careful of these people who confess to things and make sure that there's true evidence that actually supports these kinds of things. Why would you take trophies and not be able to look at them, hold them, caress them? It makes no sense. Well, I'm going to say this, Michaela. Maybe at the time you held them for a while. And then when you moved, you decided you were going to, or your wife got suspicious, so you decided you would bury them for a while, because you know where they are. I mean, I have treasures in the trailer in the backyard because I have some things from my childhood. I hardly ever see those suckers either, but I know they're there. So it's like, oh, they're still there. And one day, if I want to, I can go pet them. And who knows? Or just the thought that he's got them. Sometimes just a thought. And again, most serial killers do not collect souvenirs. So that's a myth. There are some who do. And when they do, sometimes they have a storage unit that they keep them in. Sometimes they have that private room in the house. Honey, you can't go in there. I locked it up for a reason. And they pick the right wife who just accepts that. And sometimes they bury stuff. And sometimes, so sometimes they do, but they don't always. They don't always do so. So it depends on the kind. The majority of serial killers are the ones I call the quick type, the fast type. They usually I'm going to say the guy who killed Rachel Morin, if he's a serial killer, and that's why he killed her, he would be the quick type. He's not going to take a souvenir. He's just going to whack her over the head, rape her, and walk away. That would be my guess. But Rex Heuermann, he's a slow type. So he might keep some. Never know. We don't know where the knife is. We don't know that the knife exists. We don't know if he threw the knife away or he's kept the knife. I don't know why. We don't know. at all on that one. At least I don't. So let me go on here. I wanted to talk about, let's see. So there was this question, some interesting things about some, the women who kill children, especially after Lucy Letby. Oh, I'm going to do, by the way, right after this, I'm going to try to do another Lucy Letby video, because apparently some people, they really liked the video I did, because I was trying to show people how a person like Lucy Letby could get by with killing, and people have no clue. So I use the example of Angela, who was a deaf client of mine in a hospital over the years, because she's exhibited Munchausen syndrome by proxy and Munchausen syndrome, both. And I wanted to explain just how she behaved. And some people seem to miss the point about what Munchausen syndrome is and what Munchausen syndrome by proxy is. So I'm going to do a little separate video on that. But why people kill children. And in the case of we have these two cases. The New Zealand mother, and this is her here. Her name is Lauren Dickensian. Lauren Dickensian. She's really from South Africa, but she moved to New Zealand. She's 42 years old. She admitted to killing her 2-year-old twin daughters, Maya and Carla, and their 6-year-old sister, Leanne, at their home 2 years ago. Now, some of the questions is why she did it, and she got convicted. So apparently she didn't get away with saying, I have just postpartum depression, which is what is used so often these days with females. Now, mind you, the twin daughters are 2 years old, and the other one's 6. So how postpartum are we getting here? Now, depression is a real thing. And being depressed after having a baby is a real thing. I keep trying to say this correctly, but a lot of people don't get this. I don't necessarily entirely believe that everything is chemically controlled. I believe that a lot of times when you have a child, a baby, it's a lot of freaking work. And if you don't have the support system that you need, and that child doesn't bring you the happiness you thought it would bring you, there's a lot of people who don't deal well with it. They become depressed. And some of these depression is perfectly realistic. Especially and I know in the United States, a lot of people have babies. They leave their workplace where they've been spending all their time around their workmates, and then they come home and then they're stuck 24 hours a day with this little crying creature, and they become exhausted and tired and lonely and depressed, and for good reason. And they don't have the proper support system. Some countries, you do have that. You have a baby, and you have your aunties and all these people in your house, and everything goes really well. But it's very hard sometimes when you're stuck alone. So they admitted she was depressed. As far as the prosecution said, she was clearly depressed, and so did the defense. But here's where the change came up. She pleaded not guilty to murder, arguing she was suffering severe depression that could be traced back to postpartum depression. Prosecutors acknowledged Dickensian had suffered from depression, but said it wasn't enough to warrant a medical defense. They said she killed her children out of anger and resentment. And this is where the interesting thing comes between males and females. If a male kills his two 2-year-olds and a 6-year-old, he can't claim postpartum depression. But in fact, a male can experience the same depression as a female after a baby is born, because it affects his life terrifically as well. He loses a lot of his freedoms. He's got the baby that's crying all night, so he's exhausted when he goes to work. He's got the wife that's now complaining about him, and now she doesn't feel like sex for 3 months. Whatever. He's also dealing with life change, and that's not easy. So he can be depressed too, and it's not necessarily chemically driven. It's just depression from, man, my life changed, and I didn't see this coming. And some people, people who really want a child, prepare for a child, and are stable, theoretically very stable, when that child comes into their life, they may struggle, but they do well enough because they want the child, and they have hopefully enough support system that things go well enough, and they don't start resenting the child and hating the child and not being able to get up in the morning because they still have to deal with that dang kid anymore. So it says here, they said she killed her children out of anger and resentment. They pointed to her phone message, troubling phone messages and online history in the weeks before the killings, including comments about wanting to kill her children, and Google searches for most effective overdose in kids. Both of her, she and her husband were both medical professionals. And again, we see, oddly enough, with Lucy Letby, a lot of times people have some weird issues with children are often in the medical profession, especially nurses. I don't know why that is. I'd like to see a real big study on that. But it's some weird thing there. Anyway, they moved from South Africa to New Zealand and settled in Timaru just days before the murders, seeking a more stable lifestyle away from the turmoil in their home country. But this is where it gets creepy. And we see the same thing I'll get to the other murder up there in Massachusetts in a minute. Lauren Dickensian first tried to kill her children using zip ties and then suffocated them with pillows. She went to a lot of work to kill them. I mean, this wasn't like a guy with a gun goes bang, bang, bang. I mean, I'm not going to say neither way is a nice way to kill your kids off, but you have to think that a person who goes, let's say the children are sleeping and a guy walks through the room at night and shoots them in the head, he doesn't actually see their suffering. She's actually looking them in the eyes when she's killing them, or she sees them, they're struggling while she's killing them. And the same thing is true for, what's her name in Massachusetts? I just blanked on her name. Same thing. She strangled her children looking them in the eye. Who does that? I mean, this is pretty vicious. And then it says, after she did that, she tried to kill herself. But she didn't succeed. I don't even know how she tried to kill herself, because apparently she didn't even have any injuries. At least the other woman jumped out the freaking window, and her lawyer still claims she's paraplegic, but I don't know. I believe her lawyer at all, because she's in a mental institution. And is she in a wheelchair? I mean, what's really happened? No one's ever, the prosecution and the state have never said whether she's really paralyzed. Just her lawyer. So I don't trust him. But she supposedly jumped out a window, but not high enough one. And she supposedly tried to kill herself, but not very well. There's a lot of times that people attempt to commit suicide, and their attempts are only fakes. I'll say this because I worked in hospital for so many years. You want to kill yourself, I guarantee you can be successful. But if you're faking it, you're faking these kind of attempts, then a lot of times that's all it is. It's an attempt to make yourself look as, what shall we say? It's a way to say I was so depressed that I too didn't want to live. But it's not necessarily so. Sometimes it's just used as a defense. There's some people who've killed their wives and then run through town naked. Right? Why are they doing that? Because they're like, hey, I'm crazy. May have killed my wife, but now look at me, I'm totally naked. And who does that but a crazy person? But that's just the plan, to have a defense. Anyway, her husband, an orthopedic surgeon, returned from work dinner to find his children dead. He later told the police he knew his wife was struggling with her mental health and with motherhood, but he had no idea she was capable of killing. Okay, so, and this is an Andrea Yates thing all over again. Russell Yates, people accuse him. Why didn't you help her more? Blah, blah, blah. Well, because you usually don't think they're going to go to that extent. You just don't. The same reason people get killed by their boyfriends or girlfriends. They just don't think they're going to go there, and they know they have problems. Who does things like that? They can't imagine it. So and so there's also an interesting thing where people try to shift the blame onto the spouse. It's like, when you choose to kill your family, I'm going to say it's your problem. You're the psychopath. You're the one with the issues that you want life the way you want your life. And you don't want to deal with all these other problems anymore. You can walk away, and you chose not to do it. Everybody can walk away. So I'm always amazed when people say, oh, well, they didn't have any choices. No, they can walk away. Finally get to the point where you can't take it, you walk away. You say, they're yours. I'll give you custody. I'm done. You take care of them, little buggers. I'm gonna go live my life. You can do that. There's more than one man who's walked out to get cigarettes or some milk and never come back. And he didn't kill the family. I mean, I'm not saying he's a great guy, but he didn't kill the family. So I'm sorry. I don't have a lot of sympathy if people kill off their kids. And so Yeah, and she got convicted, which I was glad to see. And now we have the situation of the woman in Massachusetts, who people have a lot of sympathy for. And now the question is, can her husband testify against her? All right. This is Lindsay Clancy. I always forget her name. I have a block on her name. Can her husband be forced to testify his wife killing those 3 children off? Now, well, let's see. Can he? The prosecution's star witness in the upcoming murder trial of the Massachusetts woman could be her husband, Patrick Clancy. And here we have an Inside Edition saying could be, because Inside Edition doesn't care about facts or getting even an investigative reporting done. They're just going to throw something out there. And I know because I've done work for Inside Edition, they do this all the time. Could be is different than will be. All right. Anybody could be. I could be a star witness in the Lindsay Clancy trial, but nobody's called me yet. Lindsay is charged with 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of strangulation or suffocation and 3 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. She has not entered a plea. She's currently receiving mental health treatment in Tewksbury Hospital. She will remain in the state-run hospital until November. And then supposedly the case is, status hearing for the case is set for Tuesday. What? Tuesday. Oh, okay. Coming up. Okay, so now, she sent her husband out to get dinner and killed the children while he was gone with exercise bands. She killed the 5-year-old, the 3-year-old, and 8-month-old. All right. The husband voiced his support, and so did the husband in New Zealand, voiced his support for his wife soon after the deaths of their children, saying, I want to ask all of you that you find it deep within yourselves to forgive Lindsay, as I have. She killed 3 children. You know, I don't know. I'm sorry. If my husband had killed my 3 children, there would be no forgiveness on this earth for him. What happens after he leaves the earth is not my problem. But on this earth, I don't care. There will be no forgiveness. Those children had a right to their lives. These 3 little innocent children, they're the most docile victims you can ever get, the most, and they trusted her, and she came in and killed them. I'm sorry. I believe that when husbands say forgive, it's because they were such dolts, and I use this word a lot, D-O-L-T. They're dolts that never, they were so busy with their own little world, they didn't really realize what was going on, and they think, I can't believe I'm so stupid, I didn't realize my wife was a psychopath, or my wife was that kind of person, or my wife was that demented. I didn't do my job, not as a husband, but as a father. That left my children with that person. I think they feel so embarrassed and maybe badly about it. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, yeah, I would. If my husband killed off my 3 children, I'd be pretty appalled that I didn't see it coming. Now, maybe it's not my fault I didn't see it coming. Maybe I'm just one of those innocent, naive people, and I think, whatever. But I think sometimes that's why they're like willing to forgive, because they don't want to admit that they never saw it. He said that the real Lindsay killed 3 children. That's what the real Lindsay did. I'm sorry, I just have no sympathy for people who kill kids. I don't care what people say. I just don't. I can't get past it, The real Lindsay was generously loving and caring toward everyone, me, our kids, friends, family, and her patients. The very fibers of her soul are loving, at least until she strangled her children, looking in their eyes and them screaming, Mommy, Mommy, stop, stop. All I wish for her now is that she can find some peace. She should get peace. Your 3 kids are dead. I'm sorry. You're our adult. You're adult. I'm sorry. It makes me mad. She murdered 3 children in cold blood. And she was supposedly so nice until that moment in time. Are you telling me she was perfectly fine until then? No, I'm going to say you just couldn't see the characteristics in her. They didn't see it with Lucy Lepke. You didn't see it with her. That's what happens. Just don't get it. So anyway, can he testify? He said that spouses generally cannot be compelled to testify against one another. But divorce attorney Ken Jewell tells the Inside Edition there's some exceptions, because Inside Edition called him, and he gave his one statement. There are a few instances where he can be forced to testify if there were communications made in the presence of a third party or email sent from an email system. Other exception are allegations of child abuse. Okay, so can he testify? Well, I don't know, and I don't know that he will. But I'm going to say if he does, he's not going to be very helpful to the prosecution because I believe he's going to stick to his belief that she was a perfectly wonderful human being until she sent him out to get some food and then she snapped. So it just bugs me because you say when men kill their families, people seem to consider them evil psychopaths. But women kill their families, they constantly say that even the surviving spouse just says, well, it's postpartum depression, or it's like they had some psychotic thing going on. And then we're talking about people who aren't like having like a psychotic history. That makes more sense. You got somebody who's got a severe psychotic background. And schizophrenia, people go to schizophrenia. Schizophrenia doesn't always mean people kill people. A lot of schizophrenics just, they have delusions, but they're not killing people. But if you have a background of that, or you're involved in some sort of drugs that send you on all kinds of weird things, I get it. But to believe that a person, that it can take many cases of male family mass murderers, Jeffrey McDonald and the guy's name I always forget out in Colorado that I've also got a block against. People say they were so nice. They were such good husbands prior to the moment they killed their entire family. Why do they say this there too? Why do they keep saying they were so wonderful? Because that's the persona they put on. That's what they present to the family. That's what they present to the public. What really happens is another question. And a lot of times you'll see a highly narcissistic person who wants perfection. They want everything to go their way. They want the children to be perfect. They want the toys to be perfect. They want their mothering to be seen as perfect. And when the children become imperfect, they can't handle that. And when they start not liking that lifestyle anymore, when they've had enough kids to bore them, and sometimes it's going to be one kid, and sometimes it's going to be three. But when those children start to not be any fun anymore, they don't have the life they want anymore. And one day they wake up and say, I'm done with this crap. I want to go live the life I want to live. And that's psychopathy. That's a really, really serious case of narcissism. This is not a person who was just wonderful and the greatest person in the world until that moment in time. That's just drives me crazy. But, again, I'll point this out, as I always do. There is a reason for laws. The laws are to say you can't do certain things. Murder is not acceptable. All right. And as I said, Lindsay Clancy could have, instead of sending her husband to the place to get some food, she could have gotten in that car, picked up some food, and kept driving. And called her husband from some other state and said, look, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I don't want to take care of those kids anymore. I'm done. And she didn't. She killed him instead. Why? She was so loving. How could she do this to her husband? These are her husband's children. People always seem like the husbands don't matter. Even Andrea Yates. It was like Russell Yates. Everybody hating on Russell Yates. That man lost all his children. Somebody killed each one of the children that he loved. It was his wife. Lindsay Clancy killed each one of those children that her husband loved. And the woman in New Zealand, she killed those children that her husband loved. And we're supposed to just say that, oh, no big deal. I'm sorry. Okay, that is my not psychotic, psychopathic. Big difference. Big difference. Chad Dorman. Okay, what's happening with Chad these days? Chad Dorman. No, that's not the guy. I always forget what's the guy's name in Colorado? The good-looking one. I always forget his name. But Chad Dorman. Right now, I don't think anybody feels sorry for him. Yeah. Yes. It's almost as though trying to hurt the spouse. I believe that's very true because the spouse is, thank you, Chris Watts. I always forget Chris Watts' name. Good looking dude. Everybody said he was a great guy. Then he kills his wife and children. Not a nice guy. Just so he can what? Move on with life? Same as Jeffrey McDonald. Yes, I think they want to get back at their spouse as well. Now, either by killing them or by killing what matters to their spouses. A lot of times this does happen in a divorce situation because now you can't have the children. I'm not going to share the kids with you. I'm not going to let you have the kids. If I can't have you can't have the kids. And so they kill the kids to punish the spouse. And I think some of these women, although they just never bring this part up, I think some of these women blame their spouse for the situation they're in, as if they never made decisions. They chose to marry the person. They chose to get pregnant. They chose to do whatever. They chose to get pregnant again and pregnant again. And we're not talking about Andrea Yates. Some people say, well, she was, she wasn't like we're talking about Lindsay here. We're talking about a woman with education. Same thing with a woman in New Zealand. She was in medical practice. These were people with education. And Andrea Yates are like, yeah, well, Andrea Yates, she's just, abused by her husband. And she couldn't make any choices. But even then, it's like, she still made choices. She did make choices to get married, she made choices. And actually, Andrea Yates made way more choices than people realized, and choices of what church she wanted to go to and stuff like that. And I understand that some women are under the thumb of certain husbands and vice versa. And sometimes people do have emotional abuse from husbands and so on and so forth that drive them crazy. But murder is not the answer. You cannot murder for your solution. And if you're pissed off at your husband, you don't murder your children because you're pissed off at your husband. I don't understand this concept, the sympathy. I honestly don't get it. I mean, I'm sorry. Can't kill the kids. And it's just the concept that's not such a big deal. And by the way, I'm going to bring this up. Do you know that we never feel as bad for babies and children as we do for adults? So you see a woman who's killed, and then everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But you see a cheerleader have a baby and then chuck it in a trash can. And everybody's like, whatever. We oddly give more value to adults than we do to children. In other words, those adults who are people to us, they're more people to us. They've gone through life. They have, now they're married, they have kids or whatever. Now they're people. Little children don't seem to have enough personality for a lot of people to consider more than a blob with a cute face. And so when those 3 kids get killed, it's like, oh, well, they weren't real people. Now, on occasion, you'll see like the Madeleine McCann case where they work overtime, some people, to make Madeleine McCann a person you care about. But a great deal of children get killed all the time without anybody seeming to care about them at all. And babies especially, it's just a baby. Because we haven't given them a personality yet. So somehow that minimizes their murders. It's an odd thing, but true. Just creepy. Yeah. That's it. Babies have no distinct personality. Yeah, they're just a baby. They're just a baby. Sad, really super sad. And for all of us, well, that's an interesting point. Look how many times you hear us a joke. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. Our kids are our property. And yeah, there may be some truth to that. Yeah. For me, tell that to ladies victims. Yes, exactly. The weird thing is that even in the Lucy out there killing babies in the hospital, there's a lot of sympathy now going to Lucy as to what made her do such a thing. Maybe she's really truly psychotic. Maybe she this, maybe she that, maybe whatever. What about the families? My God, you spent 9 months getting, with your pregnancy, here, the little baby moving, and you see the little pictures and all that. Your baby is born. It's finally here. You're nursing your baby and all that sweet stuff. And then the nurse kills your baby off. We don't hear much about the parents and the babies. We just hear about Lucy Letby. She's the one that matters now because she's alive and the babies aren't. Ugh. Anyway, that's my soapbox for today. Now, I want to go to now bad behavior. So we have some bad behavior crimes. We have, wait a minute, which one is this? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the one in New Zealand. Sorry. Oh, yes, this woman, Sarah Boone, she apparently stuck her. Now, this is one of the stupidest stories. Anyway, her boyfriend ends up in that piece of luggage. Now, he's got some bruises and some damage to his body, but he ends up at the piece of luggage. Yes. And she claims they were playing a game of hide and seek. Although she knew he was in the luggage, and she zipped the luggage up. So how was he hiding if she already knew where he was? So there's a stupid story if I ever heard a stupid story. So anyway, why he's in the luggage, I don't know. First of all, you'll see sometimes with people is they do stupid stuff, really stupid stuff, especially for people who they think they're in a relationship with. Like, for example, a woman, well, her husband's beat her up 2 or 3 times before, and or a boyfriend, let's say boyfriend. He's beat her up before, and he threatened to kill her like 5 times. But then one day she reads her boyfriend gives her this book and says, "I want to tie you up." And she goes, "Okay." So he ties her up, and then he kills her because she's tied up and can't fight back. So why is the boyfriend in the luggage? And she zipped him up. So how did that occur? Well, obviously he got in. I can't imagine she beat him to the point, because she's a female and he's a guy, that she beat him to the point where she forced him into the luggage. Somehow or along the way, he had to cooperate, thinking this was some joke that they were playing. And then he got into the luggage, and then she didn't let him out because there was no way out of the luggage unless she unzipped it. So she claims, let me find the story on this. His name is, by the way, her name is, so this is what happened. On February 24th, 2020, Jorge Torres, a 42-year-old American man, died in Winter Park, Florida, when he climbed inside a suitcase at his home while the couple played a game of hide and seek, which is her words, and I don't believe that for a minute. I don't know why he got in that thing, but that was not hide and seek because she zipped it up. So she already knew who he was. So he suffocated to death after his girlfriend allegedly zipped him into the suitcase. Well, yes, because he couldn't do it himself. She did it to him. She was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. I question the second-degree part. Prior to the killing, mind you, now she claims that he was always abusing her. All right. And that he had been arrested multiple times for alleged instances of domestic violence against Boone. And she had been arrested 1 time for alleged instance of domestic violence against Torres. Boone had been arrested for alleged battery by strangulation against Torres in 2018. And we're talking now, how many years have passed? 2 years. All right. And then they were both arrested. However, her charge was dismissed, and Torres had been arrested 4 times for alleged battery against Boone, each time after which she bailed him out of jail. So we're talking about a completely messed up relationship. We have 2 people who probably beat the living crap out of each other, and it's just a messed up domestic situation. She kept bailing him out. What can you say about that? So this is what happened. So on February 25th, she called 911, told that her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, was dead. Boone claimed that she and Torres had a single bottle of wine. Okay, I'm sorry, but if I share a single bottle of wine with you, I don't think that makes us so drunk we do stupid things. So that sounds suspicious right there. But anyway, and then decided to play hide and seek. She claimed they thought it would be funny to put him in the suitcase, which again is not hide and seek. That's just, let's see, why don't you get in the suitcase and I'll zip you in, ha ha. And they were both laughing. She stated that she then went upstairs and accidentally fell asleep, leaving Torres in the suitcase. Torres' death was ruled a homicide. She was not arrested the day that she found him in the suitcase and called police, but the following day she came in for an interview in which forensics asked for the phone, and she willingly gave her phone to them. They found 2 videos on the phone taken that night before. However, she did not remember taking the videos because, she had half a bottle of wine, which is like what? One and a half glasses? Yeah, you're so drunk. And she also did not try to delete the videos. She is heard saying, "For everything you've done to me." So he called her from the suitcase going, let me out, I can't breathe. And she's like, I'm not letting you out because of all the things you've done to me. So he died. It's like, all right. It was premeditated, in my opinion, that she got him into that thing. under what ploy, I don't know. If a guy had put a female in a suitcase and zipped her in and she died, I'm pretty sure he'd get murder one. She did. So, at any rate, she's been charged with second degree. And she's using the battered woman's defense. And kind of like the children thing here, I'm going to say both of them kept getting cited for battering each other, and she kept bailing him out. And I know people say, well, she bailed him out because she still loved him and she couldn't separate herself from him. And she bailed him out because she was afraid of him, blah, blah. If the guy's willing to get in a suitcase and let her zip him in, I'm going to say that she got a little more power than they're claiming. And she zips him in there, knows he can't breathe, can't get out. And she leaves him there, claiming she fell asleep because she drank half a bottle of wine. I'm going to say that's premeditated murder to me. And she's just going to claim she could claim, I guess this is more likely. She could claim that she didn't realize he would die, that she thought there was still enough air, that he was just being a whiny bird. And there was enough air, like at least through a little area, like you could put two fingers through there. There was enough air that he could put his little nose up and get enough air. And she just leave him there till morning to teach him a lesson. And he died because of, probably positional asphyxiation. And she was too stupid to realize that would happen. If I were a lawyer, that's the one I'd fight. I was trying to teach him a lesson. I didn't think he'd die. So maybe it will be second degree, but stupid behavior. And then you're like, I don't know that, I shouldn't be charged with anything because I'm an idiot, And then we have this woman. I want to do three idiots. So we have this woman. She's a young woman. She drove her car with her boyfriend and another guy she hardly knew from her high school. Into a wall at 100 miles an hour. Killed her boyfriend and killed the other guy in the car. Her name is McKenzie Sherilla. She was convicted of murder in July 2022. I guess because she should know that when you run into a wall, you're going to die. But this was theoretically an attempted murder-suicide. She probably thought she was going to die with them. So it was a murder-suicide. But she knew she was going to kill them. Now, what she tries to claim now is that she was how old was she? The boyfriend was 20. The other fellow was 19. Here's the guy she killed. These are the two young men she killed off. And apparently she'd been having fights with her boyfriend. And she had, let's see, what does it say here? She apologized to the family. But, anyway, supposedly, the people said that friends and family said that she had been harassing him and saying, I'm trying to find that this was an intentional. There was no breaking done. This was intentional, that she planned to smash that and end their relationship. 2 weeks before the crash, she allegedly threatened to crash her vehicle when she was driving with Russo because she was upset over a disagreement they had. I'm going to say Russo, again, like dude in the suitcase. When your girlfriend says she's going to kill you in the car, don't get in the car with her. And this is amazing how many times this happens, that people still, in spite of the person threatening their lives, threatening to harm them, still go and have that last conversation with them, and still meet them in an isolated location to just settle things, and let the person have closure. And they get closure, all right. They kill you. That's their closure. So she decided to have closure on him. And so she had made multiple threats. A video was recovered from his phone, reveal an altercation in which she was heard repeatedly degrading Dominic, threatening him and damaging his property. She allegedly threatened to key his car and to break the handle off a door after he refused to let her into the house. But he gets in a car with her. Dude. So sad. And I mean, probably because he never believed she would go that far. Husbands who don't think your wives are going to go that far to kill the children. Women who don't think the husbands are going to go that far to kill the children. Men who don't think their wives and girlfriends are going to kill them. Women who think their husbands and boyfriends aren't going to kill them. Sometimes they're going to kill you. They are. They're going to kill you. And when you have a person whose behavior is not, and I believe wholeheartedly that these husbands who now say their wives are just these perfect human beings before this happened, and it's not true. There are always signs, but you just don't give them enough merit. You downplay the signs and saying, well, everybody's got problems, or he's a little depressed, blah, blah, blah. She's a little depressed. But there are always these signs, and we just ignore them. And she said she was going to kill him, and she did. Really sad. And the third one I want to point out is this woman. She had a fight with her boyfriend in a restaurant. She's all angry, and I think she threw something at him. Let me see if I can find her. That is, oh, here we go. So this woman is Lauren Pazienzia. She was out with her boyfriend having this little dinner. And then, let's see, where was it? It said this. I want to see where the part was where she was at the restaurant. She had a fight with the boyfriend. Then she goes out, and this 87-year-old woman is walking along, and she just pushes her and shoves her to the ground, and she cracks her head on the ground, and she dies. And she was a very well-loved woman by so many family and friends. She was a vocal coach, and was, people just really thought she was wonderful. And this creature, in a rage because she's angry with her boyfriend at the restaurant, then decides she can go out and just attack somebody completely unknown and just shove her and kill her. And she didn't plan to kill her. She just shoved her, and so she fell to the ground. And then she just walked away and got on the. I guess she just took the subway back to her apartment. So there was I'm looking for the other one that said what she did in the restaurant. This article didn't have it. Oh, here we go. Wrong article. It said here. All right. There's more wine involved. I mean, maybe I should stop drinking wine, man. Wine is always involved. Okay, so she's at, let's see. So she was 100 days out from her wedding. I guess that guy dodged a bullet, huh? When she attacked Ms. Gustern on the evening of March 10th, 2022. This is an extended temper tantrum. When Ms. Pazienzia, it began when they were having an impromptu meal in a Manhattan park after having several glasses of wine. Ms. Pazienzia grew irate upon being told that she would have to leave the park, which is about to close. She threw her... Oh my God, people are so messed up. Wait a minute. Someone, I guess they came on, the park is closing, you can't stay any longer. So because of that, she threw her dinner onto her fiancé and stormed away. Shortly thereafter, she encountered Miss Gustern, who was across the street. Miss Pazienzia was 5'7", strode over, cursed at Miss Gustern, and pushed her, causing her to hit her head on either the metal fence or on the sidewalk. She later told her fiancé she thought the older woman, who was 4'11", might have said something to her, but that she wasn't sure. I don't know if the victim saw her throw her dinner on her fiancé, and she said something while she was passing by and go, wow, that was uncalled for. And that pissed her off more, and she attacked her, or whether she never said anything at all, and she just attacked her, because apparently throwing dinners on your fiancé is not a big deal either. She said that Ms. Pazienzia most likely thought there would be no consequences for shoving Ms. Gustern. She probably figured it was some little old lady no one's going to notice. Little did she know that the little old lady she attacked is known and loved by probably thousands of people. So we have people here whose behaviors are excessive and out of control, and we have, and then they think they shouldn't be penalized for those behaviors. I disagree. I think, you can't do these things. I mean, we all have times when we act stupid, yell maybe. Yes, I have thrown a dish in my life, but I picked a dish I didn't like before I hit the wall, threw it up against the wall. Never the dish I liked, and never at the person. But and only once. Okay. But you have consequences for your behavior. And I don't know why we have this new world which says no matter what you do, you have an excuse for it. you're depressed, you're whatever, you're lonely, or this or that, you're angry. You know, that's why we have rules and we have laws. There's lines we can't cross, and when we cross them, we have to pay the price. And I don't think we should let people off of paying the price for the crimes that they commit, for whatever freaking reasons they come up with. You don't get to walk down and just take a elderly woman walking and shove her and kill her. You don't get to do that and walk away with having no consequences. You shouldn't be able to kill your children and have no consequences. So I think this weird idea that as long as you're depressed or upset, you should be able to be forgiven and have no consequences. I think you should pay the dues. And I think if you want me to forgive you, you know what you should do? You should plead guilty to the entire crime you committed and skip everything and not get a lesser sentence or anything. Say, I did it. I deserve what I get. If you're willing to do that, I might be willing to say, all right, you know, at least you recognize what you did was terribly wrong and you're willing to totally confess to it. And I'm not a serial killer or something like that, but you know, but a lot of these people still will get the defense attorney and they still try to get off of the crime they committed with every hook and crook they can. And for that reason, I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't have much sympathy when you're willing to do that. Because if I ended up killing my 3 children, I hope you put me in a frickin' dungeon. I do. I mean, I would go for the death penalty on myself. If I kill my 3 children, yeah, give me the death penalty. I'm okay with that. I deserve it. My kids had the death penalty. If I kill my 3 children, that's 3 death penalties. These women who killed the children gave them death penalties. Stop being nice. I'm sorry. I mean, you can get depressed as a mother. You can get frustrated. You can get angry. I can see yelling and screaming, putting the kid in their room and locking them in for a little while. Okay, there's all kinds of things you can do which aren't necessarily nice, but they're not murder. When you commit murder, okay, I think they've crossed the line. All right, I'm going to check on your comments here. I'm a door slammer. Looking tan. Yeah, I've been going to the pool every day. It's ruining my complexion, but I love the sun. It's just nice. It's you know, get out of the inside of a house. I'm willing to burn up. No. Wait, where's the other one? Oh no, I keep trying to. I'll take myself out. Good for you. I'm a door slammer, coming clean. You know, the old TV remote. Many people throw TV remotes. I mean, I think it's one of those things we can all relate to certain things. And then there's that level where when it gets past that point, that's not a moment of, you know, where you just lost it and got frustrated. That's why when they talk about the crimes of passion, which don't exist, which my favorite psychologist. How can I blank on your name? My favorite psychologist, Samuel. Okay. The inside the mind, doctors. What the heck? How am I forgetting your name? Inside the Criminal Mind by Dr. Stanton Samanow. Sorry, there we go. Inside the Criminal Mind, one of my favorite books. Inside the Criminal Mind by Dr. Stanton Samanow, one of the best psychologists I've ever run into, because he understands things how they really are. And I did a thing on television where I said this was not a crime of passion on something, and I got attacked by the little panel thing, which I don't do panels anymore. And he wrote me an email, and I thought, oh my God, this guy's going to blow me away. You know, it's going to. And he said, I'm so glad to see that you said that. Breath of fresh air. I agree with you. So the crime of passion is at a point where you're going past a line of as something you can live with. Okay. If I got mad at my ex, which I had, and yes, I did throw that dish when he came. I don't know where. I think he left the room and I threw the dish, but again, it was a dish I didn't really like, and it made a good noise, and it indicated I was very angry. But I owned a weapon at that time. I owned a 9mm. I did not go up and pull the 9mm out and blow his brains out. Throwing a dish, killing people with a gun, 2 different things. Yelling at your kids, strangling your children, 2 different things. And if you're willing to strangle your children or kill your husband or wife, on a moment that you're angry, even if you find out they're cheating on you or whatever that you've just found out. That's not a crime of passion. That is a psychopathy, that you're willing to carry out something that is past what human beings are supposed to do and is illegal and is something that is horrific. So yes, you come home and you find out your spouse has been cheating on you. I just read this, as a matter of fact. Oh, I know where I read this. Who is it that told me about this book? Anyway, there's these levels of different levels of evil, which I'm not fond of. But the crime of passion is listed, and that pisses me off that the crime of passion is listed. So supposedly this guy comes home. This guy goes out to the store, finds his wife kissing on some. This is the example given, kissing on some other fellow worker, and then he kills her at the home, and then he fails to kill himself properly, but he tells his mother, well, I killed her because I couldn't live with this situation. That's not a crime of passion. A crime of passion would be she walks in the door and you shriek at her for 3 hours. You throw all her clothes out the window. You tell her you're going to divorce her. You don't kill her. When you kill her, you got a psychopathic mind going, and mommy doesn't know it, and neither did your wife. So, because that's extreme. Now, the only time I can see when somebody kills somebody, well, first of all, self-defense. And the only other time that I can say I get it is when somebody who raped and murdered your child is walking out the court and you pull out that gun and shoot him down. And you say, I'm willing to go to prison for the rest of my life because I want that guy dead. I'm okay with that. It's a rare instance, but that's a whole different situation than just having your getting butthurt over something. Somebody cheats on you, you get butthurt. Yes, they broke their vows, blah, 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 and it's wrong, but they didn't kill your child. If you didn't get raped, if you didn't get tortured, if they didn't torture, kill your children, and do these things, if they did things that hurt you emotionally, that's one thing. But that doesn't mean you get to kill them over it. You get to leave them, but you don't get to kill them. So, at any rate, you're reading The Profiler by Pat Brown. Woo. Yes, it's still on the market. I think the publisher's still trying to get their money back on that one, but that's the way things go. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sarah. The New Evil by Dr. Gary Bucato. By the way, I do say that I did watch his. He gave a profile of Brian Koberger before Brian Koberger was caught, and I thought it was pretty decent. He's definitely, I wouldn't call him a profiler. He's a psychologist who sometimes profiles the minds of killers. And he wrote this book with a guy I don't like, who wrote the previous whatever of evil, the different levels. I forgot the name of the book. But now they've written one together. And personally, I don't like the other guy. And I think he did a show with it was some serial killer from prison. I just made me throw up. And he had this whole show where the guy was like never told who it was, and had the serial killer talking. It just pissed me off. I don't like serial killers being given platforms. But anyway, he had these different levels of evil, and I'm not over. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Stone. It's Stone. Yeah, I don't particularly go for his stuff, and he didn't work for me. But I did like this new guy better. I do. I think he's more interesting. I think he's more on the mark on a lot of things. I'm still not overly fond of some of the stuff that they divide, but I agree with him on other things that he divided. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that book. I want to read it for myself, and to see whether, because it's nice when you have a psychologist who, I'd like to say, Dr. Dr. Samuel Stanton. Now lost his name today. He is one of the most reasonable, most logical ones I've ever run into as a psychologist. And he's so realistic. I like that. And one of the problems I have with a lot of people who do profiling of serial killers and other killers is they get too much into the drama of it. They overwhelm you with the drama, the evilness, the creepiness, and what happens is that's more how they envision it. Not so much how the killer envisions it. The killers oftentimes are a lot more mundane than we think. And their drama is so limited. And to understand that, you have to step back a little bit and stop playing this, making a huge operatic tragedy out of it, even though the killing is a tragedy. It's allowing this person who you label evil, you label, all the things you label them with, and then you go into this description of how they feel when they do these things. You give way too much power to them, as if they're this almost a cool kind of thing. Like, what is Rex Heuermann like when he gets the women? How does he feel toward them? And then when he lures them, and then when he rapes them, and then he kills them. Most serial killers are really dull people. They swear to God, they're dull. They're dull. And a lot of things they do are dulled down because they lack the proper emotion. They lack that kind of passion. A lot of rapes are done without passion. They're just brutal and simple. And when I remember watching a long time ago on the dark web of some sort, I watched there's been recently a killing in one of my favorite locations in Mexico, where the cartel lured these 5 boys, and when they wouldn't join, they killed all 5 boys, and a very brutal killing, supposedly on video. I did not see that one, but I saw a previous one of a cartel who killed, I think it was 4 women, who I think were hooked up with another cartel. And they brutally killed them and chopped them up on video, which was pretty gruesome to see. But they did it with they were like, they could have cared less. You could have thought they were chopping up some fish. They thought it was amusing. They didn't care that they killed the women. They thought the women deserved to die. And they're just like, well, whatever. We're boom, boom, boom. We're going to look, boom, we're shooting them. We're cutting their heads off, whatever. I forgot how they chopped them into pieces, but they chopped their arms and legs off and everything. It was horrifying. But not for them. Not for them. So sometimes I think it helps to not over dramatize something that for them is not that way. So you can understand when you're dealing with these people. A lot of times you're dealing with people who, Brian Kohlberger, if he's guilty, have you seen the way he behaves in public? That is who he is. He's a kind of dreary, boring, annoying guy, and in the moments that he killed people, he may not have been that much more exciting, except in the minds of the profilers who want to exaggerate certain things, I think, to a point where we lose an understanding of how these people actually, what they lack is, they lack passion, they lack empathy, they lack drama in their lives. They really lack most of all of that. And to try to get any kind of power and thrill or whatever, they do these evil things. But I don't know that the actual moment of doing them is more exciting to them than just the point that they did it. So I'm a little cautious when I read these things, because most of the time I just roll my eyes a lot and go, oh God, here we go again. Let's get into the minds of killers, and let's do a whole entire book on it, and let's get everybody all excited. So I it's not my thing. So that's just my point. Let's see what Alyssa says. I have to, hold on a second. I was trying to go here. So many people are Israel Keys fanatics, I've noticed, since following the true crime bullshit podcast. People are so intrigued by him, like a superhero of sorts. Yeah, and the more bizarre things they do, the more excited people get. And I know it's a lot is because we can't fathom doing those things. We can't. But if you ever read, stuff about war, and if you ever read stuff about the concentration camps and extermination camps of Germany, which I've lost relatives, my ancestors have died in, the things another human being can do to another human being is not just for serial killers. It's for people across the board, and it's kind of horrifying when you think in general that the level of empathy people can have for other human beings can be that low. That once a person is no longer human to you, you can do anything to them. The same way people can kill animals. I mean, and we don't want anybody who eats animals that goes, well, what are you talking about? And hunters get really mad at this, but I'm like, hey, I got to point it out, because you are able to do that to another living being. Why? Because somehow you have taken the worth of their life and you've diminished it. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. You said a fish is just a fish, man. There's tons of fish in the sea. They're meant for people to eat. So you go and you pull your fishy out and you put it on there and you whack it in the head. I mean, but that fishy had a life. It's just it didn't matter to you because you have determined that that life of the fish is not that valuable or is just fairly meaningless. And so the deer and so the cow and so the sheep and so whatever. But if it comes to a dog, everybody gets all bent out of shape. Well, that dog, oh my God, the doggy had a life. It was a loving doggy. Well, don't you think it was a loving deer? Don't you think it was a loving cow? I mean, the dog's no different. You go to Korea, they're tasty, you know. So, and I have not had a dog yet in my life. But, when you can do that to animals, and you can, and the smaller the animal, the easier it is to do, by the way. That's why people whack flies and spiders and kill little bugs, but they're not so willing to kill bigger animals unless you're a big game hunter. Then you think, oh no, you can't hurt the the elephant. Why is the elephant more important than the frog? I have toads outside and they're real cute, and I've owned toads as pets. Why is a toad more important than an elephant? See, because we, again, like babies, we give more importance to big people than we do to babies. Kind of weird thing we humans have. So then when you can take that fact that you can kill an animal without too much thinking, if you can make a person not be important either, and their lives are devalued, and they just become like cockroaches to you. They're those people. They're all cockroaches. We can kill them. It doesn't matter. Because they're from another cartel, they're cockroaches. They're from another country, they're cockroaches. They're from, we can diminish their lives. Not all of us. Now, some of us could never do that, but there are enough people to do that. So when we look at serial killers, say, how could serial killers do that? Well, I don't know. How did people in the concentration camps torture women, children, elderly people, and then kill them without blinking an eye? How? It's the same thing. Somewhere along the way, the human empathy is lost, and life becomes more and more, I guess, meaningless to them, and they can't get out of life what they need to get out of life for regular stuff. So doing even more outrageous things is somehow means you exist. You can go to a whole philosophy thing over that, but that's why I get annoyed sometimes when I see this overdose on the serial killer stuff, because I'm like, they're just somewhere on that continuum. We are all on that continuum. And if we have a decent society and we have decent community and we have decent family and we do our best to raise our children well, hopefully we never get to that end of the continuum, that we still have empathy and love and passion for life. And we would never do these things. But when people get further up, they do them because it doesn't matter. And it serves a purpose. It satisfies a person in some way, but probably not the way that the profiler or the public think. So you're making me want to go back to being a vegetarian. I'm not trying to do that here, it's like, but it's just, a lot of it is the way we live and how we accept life. And if you're in a situation where you're living where there are no vegetables, you're going to be eating those seals. You know what I mean? And because that's how you live. But we do have choices when you have more options between meat and vegetables. But again, it's all a perception of life, and whether we think that one thing is okay and one thing is not okay. So this becomes a huge argument between people, and I'm not here to argue vegetarianism or meat eating. But we are able to diminish the life of another being in order to be able to do what we want to do with it. So if you're looking forward to a nice steak, you can't think about the cow, or you think about the cow and you say the cow is just a dumb animal. Or you say the cow had a good life until he got killed, and you maybe ignore stockyard issues. You find some way, because that's a damn fine piece of steak, to not be bothered by the fact the cow died. And they say this is not a thing on hunting, it's not a thing on meat eaters, but it is the way we can look at life and what that life means. And for a serial killer, you ain't nothing but a cow. You ain't nothing but a cow. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Did India? No, not at all. No, no. I've been to India 5 times. It is true. Just killed someone. No, I've been to India 5 times, and I do never eat meat in India because it's not, India is not a vegetarian country, mind you. A tremendous amount of people eat meat there, just not the cows. But tremendous do, and even there are Hindus who eat meat as well. People don't realize that. But no, I've never eaten meat in India because I have options of so much vegetarian food. But if Annie were here right now, Annie was with me when we were in Mongolia and China. And Mongolia, pretty much, if you don't eat mutton, you don't eat, because that's all they have to eat. So you eat mutton and a few horses, and mutton and a few horses. You go to China, you can have a donkey. Anyway, they're pretty tasty. But I prefer to be a vegetarian, but I have cheated. Sometimes. So yeah, but but I just think this is what being human is like. It just is. And all humans are human. Even serial killers are humans. They're just not nice ones, but they're humans. And a lot of their lives are spent attempting to get the things that every human would like. But they've failed so dismally along the way that they now only can find ways to get power and control, which is what it's all about, power and control, by doing something. And Lucy Letby failed to feel like she got enough power and control and enough attention through her regular life. So she chose to kill babies because that gave her more. And people will do all kinds of things to get attention. That's why we have OnlyFans out of control. That's why so many women are in pornography. I mean, and they're beautiful women too. I mean, we're not talking about, you're like, what the heck? You're so pretty, I mean, it's like, why would you be in pornography? But there's tons of good looking women in there. It's not like there's some dreadful, I don't know, unattractive women who think they need that attention. They would get it everywhere, but they get more money with the porn, I guess. But still, it's just, why would you do that? Why isn't there something else you could do? And there must be, but for whatever reasons, they get more a thrill out of the power and control they get from being involved in porn. And the same is true a lot for people who do high level escort work because they make good money and they get attention. This is what I was talking about with the Japanese issues of the hostesses, who are many times prostitutes as well, that they go to the club and it is hard work, but they get so much attention and they know if they can play the game right, they get money and but they could be teachers, they could do other things, but maybe they wouldn't be as praised. Maybe they wouldn't make as much money. And maybe if you're a woman who's gotten married and she's got the stupid babies, killing the babies is more exciting than keeping them because it gives you more power, more control, more attention. Oh my gosh, your baby died. How sad, and if we understand that these people are just like us, except they can't achieve things in a more healthy way. So they go to this level to achieve that in an extremely unhealthy way. And of course, it does matter that you don't care about other human beings. So when you get to that level of murder, clearly, other people don't matter anymore, which is why you can do it. Otherwise, you wish you could do it, but you wouldn't, because it would be offensive to you. And you would not want to harm another human being. But yeah. So anyway, it is a dangerous gig. It is absolutely, and it bugs me when everybody tries to play it down as it's just it's just not all the girls that go to Japan, they're just hostesses and they're not doing anything more than that. That's just not true. And especially when these shows put a thing about somebody who was killed during the trade, they try to play down the dangerousness and the involvement when they should play it up, because that's how they became victims. And we want to stop other women from becoming victims, other men from becoming victims. If we keep lying about it, they're going to keep getting involved in things that are damn well dangerous, and gets them killed. Ladies running at dusk, walking at dusk on paths alone, gets you killed. Now, you can be a lucky person. You could go out, 100 times and nobody ever touches you because the serial killer isn't there. But on the 101st time, boom, there he is. And then, of course, there's people who will say, I've walked on lone trails all my life. I've hiked through the Appalachians and I never got killed. And that's true. And people travel around the world alone and don't get killed. But it still doesn't mean it's not risky. And you want to think about it. At least if you're going to go do it, here's my whole thing. If you're going to do something that has high-level risk behavior, understand that it is high-level risk behavior. And is it worth doing? Because people do lots of risky things, like climbing freaking mountains. Now, to me, that's not worth it. I'm not climbing. I'm not rock climbing. I'm not going up side of a mountain on a freaking rope. I'm not doing it. It's not worth it to me. Some people think it's worth it. But you have to ask yourself, is it truly worth it? Look around. Do you have family? Do you have kids? I mean, why are you doing this? And is it worth the risk to you? And is it worth the risk to your family? Same thing is true. Like, you go into the military, you go into the police work, anything that's got a level of danger, you have to look and say, am I a single man or a single woman? And I'm not at least affecting my spouse and kids. If I get killed, just my mother and father will be upset. But, am I leaving a family behind? Or if I'm doing that, does the family agree it's worth the risk because we need police officers in the community and we're proud of you for doing this and we're willing to accept the risk. You're willing to accept the risk, but we have to look at the risk. Why deny that it exists? And so, there's some things people say, well, they died doing what they loved, and maybe it's true. And that I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with doing things you don't realize you're doing that are risky and believing that they're not, or encouraging other people to do risky things and claiming that they're not. It's risky, it just is. So, yeah. But anyway, don't get inside a suitcase. You're a quick study. Yeah, don't do that. Don't get inside a suitcase. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing sometimes. The one that just bugs me the most is when a woman's, usually it's a young woman, and she's like, she broke up with a boyfriend, and he says, I want to get closure. So can you meet me in this lonely place to get closure? Dude, you can get closure over the damn telephone. As far as I'm going. Want to have a chit chat? We'll have our last talk right here. You don't need to see my little face in person. But no, she goes there because he wanted closure, and then he gets closure, and she ends up dead. So it just drives me crazy. So anyway, I think that's it for today. I had one more. Somebody had asked me to do. Okay, I'll do the one last one. This was this fellow who got killed, and I don't really understand why they couldn't arrest the guy to begin with. This guy was. Let me find it. This is Sid Wells, 22 years old. He lived in an apartment with his brother, and they rented the third roommate was this guy named Shmika. I can't pronounce his name, but Shmika. All right. He was studying journalism at the University of Colorado, and he was dating. Who was he dating? Who was the daughter of Robert Redford? He had been dating her for 3 years. So anyway, the brother comes back from a camping trip to find his brother lying face down on the floor inside the apartment. He calls the police, and the shock is apparent in the 9/11 recording. And so he was never a suspect. So Wells had been shot in the back of the head at close range. After police ruled the brother out as a suspect, they began to focus on Shmika. Wells' friend told police that on the morning of Wells' death, Shmika was supposed to return some money to Sid, according to the Boulder County Deputy Chief David Hayes. And in addition to paying the rent, he was late on, I guess, he was also going to give Sid some additional money and some cocaine. Wells' friends told police that Wells had been selling small amounts of cocaine in recent months. And I just want to say, it's not a reason to be murdered, but again, risky behavior. Because when you're selling cocaine sometimes to people who shouldn't be, who have issues. All right. You rented a room to a guy. They thought he was safe when he moved in. He seemed like a decent enough guy, but apparently he would not. So anyway, they went to his, after testing the crime scene and interviewing Shmika at his mother's home, found a 20-gauge shotgun there. The same weapon Wells had been killed with, a 20-gauge shotgun. They arrested him for first-degree murder. And the family thought, okay, they got him. However, they declined to charge him with the killings. There was a grand jury that refused to charge him, saying there wasn't enough evidence. Now, so I'm a little confused over here. So I don't know why they didn't have enough evidence. I mean, supposedly the ballistics matched. I don't know if there's an issue with shotgun shells and all that stuff that can't quite tell that it's actually that shotgun, although it probably was that shotgun. That seems to be what happened. But anyway, then he vanished. The suspect vanished. And now in 1997, it said they reopened the case with FBI's help. They established new forensic and ballistic evidence. I don't know what new evidence they could possibly have, and they're not saying. And then they do have an arrest warrant out in 2010 to find this guy for first-degree murder, but they can't find him. They think he might be living near Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So he disappeared and managed to disappear pretty well, I guess. I don't quite understand the issue of the evidence. Chances are he was the one who did it, but I guess I would say the main evidence can you absolutely prove ballistically that the gun that shot Wells was the gun that this guy had. And other than that, if nobody saw him come or go, no evidence it was his roommate, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm not quite sure, what the evidence issue is, but they got to find the guy first, and he's apparently not around. So he's somewhere out there hiding away. Yes, he killed Robert Redford's daughter's boyfriend. That is correct. Yeah. So, but I don't know where he disappeared, which also is kind of an indication that he thought he was going to be charged. And of course, people would say that connotes guilt. Does it? Good portion of the time, the answer to that is yes. But sometimes, just sometimes, a person can just be so scared that they think they're going to go to prison forever, even though they didn't do it, that they will disappear. So again, you can't say that's proof of anything, but he's done a good job disappearing and having a good life ever since then. But we'll have to see whether they've got this arrest warrant out, but whether they ever find him, I don't know. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it. I'll be back on Saturday at 3 p.m. I'm going to do the Bradley sisters out of Chicago, the little girls that went missing way back when. It's been 23 years, I think now. And I was recommended to watch the show on. It's called Disappeared. The Bradley sisters? I can't remember now. I'll be sending out the information on it. It was an interesting documentary. Wasn't bad. I have my thoughts, and it's kind of one of these cases where you kind of like shake your head and go, why do people think the way they do? And I have an interesting thing I found out also just doing some perusing on the internet. So I'll tell you about that on Saturday because it was just kind of funny. So I'm going to do that on the Missing Bradley sisters. And so that's going to be Saturday. And I'm going to do this thing on Lucy Letby and the issue of, is she a psychopath? Is she a serial killer, a psychopath, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or all three? So, because I think people misunderstood a little bit in the last video I did and didn't quite get my point. Although they liked the video a lot, and because they liked the video a lot, but then there's people that seem to have missed some of what I was saying. So I'll say it again in a different way. Anyway, hope to see you on Saturday. And if you're new again to the channel, please please subscribe, and join Patreon and help out the educational channel and show up in the chat room. Bye, everybody.